It takes a moment to upload. You're live.
Okay, I would like to call to order the July 9th, 2020 meeting of the Valley County Planning and Zoning Commission. The first item of business is roll call. Cindy, can we have a roll call?
Oh, Commissioner Benton,
Here.
Cooper,
Here.
Freeman,
Here.
DeFort.
Here. So before we get to the rest of the agenda, I just wanted to make an announcement that we are holding this meeting a little bit differently than we normally do because of COVID. According to the governor's recommendation for open meeting laws, we are live streaming the meeting via YouTube, and then we have a telephone number that people can call into and testify. We will be taking public comment, but people are asked to wait outside until the application that they're here to testify about is up. All right, so with that, we will move on. The next item on the agenda is the minutes from the June 11th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to read and review the minutes?
I have.
Yes. Yes.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Brian.
I entertain a motion that we approve the June 11th P and Z minutes.
All right,
I'll second it.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, the next item on the agenda is new business. CUP 20-06 Apple subdivision. Cinda, can we, or at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there any ex parte or conflict of interest?
No.
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 All right, Cinda, can we please have a staff report?
Okay, the staff report for conditional use permit 20-06 Apple subdivision preliminary and final plat. The applicant is Harold and Janice Apple. The surveyor was Rod Skifton. The property is at 1430 and 1440 South Sampson Trail. It's 5 acres located in the southeast northeast of section 28, township 18, North Range 3 east of the Boise Meridian, Valley County, Idaho. Harold and Janice Apple are requesting a conditional use permit for a 2-lot residential subdivision on 5 acres. Lots will range in size from approximately 1.9 acres to 2.9 acres. 2 homes currently exist and were permitted with CUP 91-5 multiple residences. They are addressed at 1430 and 1440 South Sampson. It is proposed that the homes continue sharing the existing well and septic system. Easements have been provided to accommodate this. A no-build zone is included on the plat to protect an area that receives springtime runoff. Access will be from a shared driveway onto South Sampson Trail, which is a public road. A wildfire mitigation plan is not required for this site. CC&Rs are proposed but were not included in the application documents. Application was made to Planning and Zoning on April 14th, 2020. Legal notice was posted in the Star News on May 21st and 28th. Potentially affected agencies were notified on May 12th. Neighbors within 300 feet of the property line were notified by fax sheet sent May 14th, and the site was posted on May 20th. The applicant requested postponing the hearing until July. Legal notice was posted in the Star News on June 18th and 25th, and the site was posted again on June 25th. Agency comments received. Central District Health replied in a review sheet. Applicant will need to submit an application and engineering report to Central District Health. The sewer easement on Lot 2 must be large enough to encompass the existing system and replacement area for both lots. Lori Frederick, Valley County Cadastral Specialist, found no discrepancies. She did make an observation regarding the shared well and water line easement. Garrett DeYoung, McCall Fire and EMS had no comment. Neighbor comments received, none. Physical characteristics of the site is relatively flat with a slight slope. Surrounding land use and zoning includes to the north, east, and west, rural residential, and to the south, single-family residential. It's Harlow Rose subdivision. The proposal is categorized under 2 residential uses, C subdivision for single-family subdivision. Different areas of the ordinance were listed for your review. Staff's compatibility rating was a positive 38. I had one question, and that's please describe all outdoor lighting. Is it dark sky compliant? Proposed conditions of approval are as follows. 1, the application, the staff report, and the provisions of the land use and development ordinance are all made a part of this permit as if written in full herein. 2, any change in the nature or scope of land use activities shall require an additional conditional use permit. 3, the final plat should be recorded within 2 years or this permit will be null and void. 4, the issuance of this permit and these conditions will not relieve the applicant from complying with applicable county, state, or federal laws or regulations, or be construed as permission to operate in violation of these statute or regulations. Violation of these laws, regulations, or rules may be grounds for revocation of the conditional use permit or grounds for suspension of the conditional use permit. 5, CC&R should address wildfire prevention, lighting, and limit each lot to 1 wood burning device. 6, all lighting must comply with the Valley County lighting ordinance. 7, shall place addressing numbers for both homes at the shared driveway entrance as well as on each residence. There was no additional information or exhibits, and so that ends my staff report.
All right, thank you, Cinda. Are there any questions of staff?
No.
I have none.
No.
All right, at this time, we would hear a presentation from the applicant. So you can stand up here, sir, and speak into the microphone. And if you wanted to just state your name and address for the record, you don't have to wear your mask while you're speaking. It's actually easier for us to hear you if you do not.
Good evening. My name is Harold Apple, living at 1440 South Sampson Trail, McCall, Idaho, 83638. Anything else?
Whatever you'd like to say.
We have no outside lights except for what turns on just on the front of the house or porch lights. There's no other lights. So we've met that lighting requirement that I saw in there. Probably the biggest thing is the 2 houses were on one piece of property that we had when my folks were both alive. They lived in the one house until they died. The other house, I mean, we need to have both pieces on a piece of property. In other words, the house needs to be associated with some land. And so that's what we've tried to do, is to give the one front house the acreage. So it has 1.9 acres is the way Rod Skifton surveyed it. And then the other would have 2.9 out of the 5 acres. There had to be a flag lot design so that the back house would be attached to Sampson Trail, which we have met that rule. The replacement for septic system is really actually huge. It's, I mean, from where it is, before you get into any of the water drainage area, there's a large area to replace if we ever needed to replace it. We haven't had any trouble with the system because we always pump it every 2 to 3 years, from both tanks. So there's 2 tanks, and haven't had any trouble with water. Got good water. So I don't know what other questions you would have. We tried to just match it all. The only other one that I have, and that is, I had an engineer, they came out and said it'd be $2,000, $2,500 for them to sign their name. And I'm going, I don't have $2,500 to have you guys sign a name for something that's been working for 20 some years. And so I did not get that done. There's got to be something that's a little simpler than that. And I didn't get back with Cinda. I've been really, really busy. So, and I don't know that it'll make any difference with me or not. So.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant?
No.
I have none.
And I have just a quick question, maybe for you or maybe for the applicant. The observation from Lori Frederick about the wording of how the well was listed on here, is that something that you suggest we change or you'd be willing to change? Did you see that recommendation?
I didn't understand what she wanted for the wording.
So she said the current wording said 10-foot wide shared well and water line easement. It may be misinterpreted as a shared well and not as sharing a well easement, despite the notations.
It is a shared well.
Oh, it is a shared
It
well?
is a shared well, yes.
Okay,
And then from that well, the easement crosses onto the one piece of property where it's from the other property. That's where the well is. The wellhead is actually on the second piece.
okay. So maybe that was a misinterpretation by her. And then what was the other recommendation? Oh, from Central District Health. Did they see this to see the size of the drain field? Because, I mean, just from my limited experience, that looks like a very large drain field.
They certainly should have. It was included to the information that went to them.
Okay,
So
okay.
I know Rod Skifton did a really good job of making sure everybody had copies of the huge plat. I mean, man, it was a massive one that I brought down and gave to Cinda. 10 copies of it, so.
Okay. All right, well, I don't have any other questions.
Okay,
Can I just confirm one thing,
Yeah.
clarify? So you do not have Central District Health approval at this time?
no, do not. So whatever, note that in with whatever would be necessary. I think you gave me, just a moment. Mike Reno,
Yes.
you'd said something about that with a one-page report rather than a full-blown engineer's report. And I never got with Mike Reno to find out anything more about that. So if there's still a possibility with that, then I can go ahead and chase that down if that's the last thing that I would have to do. So,
So can we make that a condition of approval that,
It's automatically a condition of approval number 4, where they have to comply with all agencies.
okay. Okay,
thank you.
sounds good, thank you.
Can I go home?
Yep, you can sit down, we're not quite finished yet.
Oh.
So at this time, we would hear from any proponents who are here to speak. Did we have anyone sign up for this application?
No.
No. So is there anyone on the line who would like to speak on behalf or opposed or uncommitted to this application? Give you a second to unmute your phone if there's anyone on there. Okay, hearing no one, we will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it to the table for discussion.
I really don't have any comments. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so it's just putting property with the other house, right? They're splitting it so the houses are on their own plot. Makes sense.
I have no issues with that.
Okay.
We just finished legwork, and the only other thing would be the Central District Health, and that will be part of the conditions of approval, so I have no issues.
Okay. I also don't have any comments, so at this time I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve CUP number 20-06 with the conditions as stated.
Second?
So to clarify, that's the preliminary and final plat, and authorize the chairman to sign.
Yes.
I'll second
Repeat that.
Okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Does this one have an appeal period? There's a 10-day appeal period if you do not like our decision.
That's fine.
Thank you, sir. All right, the next item of business. Is this right? CUP 20-08 RMC equipment storage. At this time, I would open the public hearing. Is there any ex parte or conflict of interest?
No.
No,
No.
All right, Cinda, can we please have the staff report?
Okay, the staff report for conditional use permit 20-08 RMC equipment storage. The applicant is Rocky Mountain Crane and Equipment Rental. The owner is Thompson Family Trust. The property is addressed at 14040 Highway 55 and located in the northeast of the Northeast Section 33, Township 18 North, Range 3 East of the Boise Meridian, Valley County, Idaho. The site is 9.6 acres. Rocky Mountain Crane is requesting a conditional use permit for an equipment storage site. No new construction is planned. A 1 acre area would be used for overflow parking and equipment storage. It would be located on the south side of the parcel. This is adjacent to the existing CUP 1806 Rocky Mountain Crane site at 14032 Highway 55. The parking area would be graded. Lighting will be dark sky compliant in accordance with Valley County Code. Access would be from Highway 55 onto the existing driveway for Rocky Mountain Crane at 14032 Highway 55. An existing building on the parcel is used for boat storage, and that was CUP 96-04. The 9.6 acre site is addressed at 14040 Highway 55. Application was made to Planning and Zoning on May 7th, 2020. Legal notice was posted in the Star News on May 21st and 28th. Potentially affected agencies were notified on May 12th. Neighbors within 300 feet of the property line were notified by fact sheets sent May 14th, and the site was posted on May 20th. The applicant requested postponing the hearing until July. Legal notice was posted in the Star News on June 18th and 25th, and the site was posted again on June 25th. Agency comments received. Central District Health replied in a review sheet stating that they have no objections. Garrett DeYoung, McCall Fire and EMS had no comments. Valley Soil and Water Conservation District said the storage site is adjacent to the main Lake Irrigation District feeder canal. A wastewater floodplain needs to be addressed at this site to prevent fuel, lubrication oil, or any other runoff from this site from entering the canal or groundwater. An on-site wastewater holding facility needs to be included in the application plan. Public comments received, none. Physical characteristics of the site, flat. Surrounding land uses are to the north, various commercial uses including CUP 0413, Northwest Storage, CUP 1101, Nez Perce Tribe Office. To the south, various commercial uses including CUP 1806, RMC, CUP 1709, Kessler Storage, and CUP 1210, McCall Donnelly School District Transportation Facility. To the east is agricultural, which is irrigated grazing land. To the west, commercial, Franklin Building Supply, and agricultural. This proposal is categorized under 5 commercial uses, D area businesses. Staff's compatibility rating was a positive 18. I did have some questions or comments. Will there be any landscape or screening proposed to block the view along the western boundary in order to protect the view from the highway? What are the specific site dimensions and easement for the specific permit site will be required? Will there be any fencing? Is this equipment storage of rental equipment? And the access crosses Lot 2 of Carson Business Park. Do you have an easement or approval from the owner? Proposed conditions of approval are as follows. 1, the application, the staff report, and the provisions of the land use and development ordinance are all made a part of this permit as if written in full herein. 2, any change in the nature or scope of land use activities will require an additional conditional use permit. If traffic volumes exceed 20 trips per day, a new permit would be required. 3, the use shall be established within 1 year of the date of approval, or this permit should be null and void. 4, the issuance of this permit, these conditions will not relieve the applicant from complying with applicable county, state, or federal laws or regulations, or be construed as permission to operate in violation of these statute or regulation. Violation of these laws, regulations, or rules may be grounds for revocation of the conditional use permit or grounds for suspension of the conditional use permit. 5, all lights shall be fully shielded so that there is no upward or horizontal projection of lights. The lights can only be a maximum of 20 feet in height. 6, the applicant shall provide and maintain orderly and proper disposal of waste, including byproducts of the operation, other solid waste, and sanitary waste. 7, must comply with Central District Health requirements. 8, must comply with the requirements of the McCall Rural Fire District. 9, parking must comply with setback standards. That's 30 feet from the front, 10 feet from the side, 30 from the rear, and 30 feet from the side street. New structures, including fencing greater than 6 feet tall, must have building permits and be approved as part of a conditional use permit. 11, the site must be kept neat and orderly. 12, shall obtain a sign permit prior to installation of a sign. 13, landscaping shall be installed prior to July 1st, 2021. If landscaping dies, it must be replaced. Landscaping must be irrigated and maintained. 14, a minimum of 1 tree should be planted for every 25 feet of linear street frontage. The trees may be grouped or planted in groves. 15, any mounting or berm shall have slopes no greater than 3 to 1. Hours of operation are limited to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And 17, a stormwater management plan shall be approved by the Valley County engineer prior to any excavation. Since the staff report was completed, we received an additional piece of correspondence. And this is from Brandy Vinsel, Amerititle, and it is an easement for access across Rod Kessler's property. Okay. And that ends my staff report.
Okay, thank you, Cinda. Is there any questions of staff?
No, I don't have any.
No,
I have none.
Do you think, Cinda, that the letter from the Valley County or the irrigation district, do you think that they were confusing the application with the one from last?
I don't know. Art Troutner
Was here to,
has signed up to testify.
oh, tonight. Okay, perfect. That will clear that up.
All right, at this time, we would hear a presentation from the applicant.
Just over there again?
Yeah. Yeah,
Can
that,
you please, Dusty, walk by and show your picture here before you go over there,
Sure.
please? Because some people said last time that they had a hard time.
So the
seeing
camera,
picture.
yeah.
Camera's right there.
Can you walk it closer
Little
to the
closer.
camera? I still can't see ya. Okay, go, just, okay,
There you go.
yeah.
Well, it's happening.
Okay, the world is happy.
Perfect. Walk through it, okay.
Thank you.
All right, Dusty Bitten with Rocky Mountain Crane, 14032 Highway 55, McCall, Idaho. We're just here for a CUP for some additional parking immediately. Our plan A might not go as smooth as we thought, so this is a piece of property that's right next door that we can use for parking right now. The other piece of property that we planned on might take some more time to develop, so we just want to develop this little area right here with gravel parking lot. Use the same access that we have coming off the highway right now. And basically just park trailers along this fence line. And we're developing this area here because we need room to pull in and back in trailers along that property line. As far as landscaping, we'll have to do our trees every 25 feet. So we'll just bunch them all right here in front of where we're coming in and out so that we can have an access and then screen that a little bit. Outside dimensions are gonna be 100 feet by 400 feet, so I'll have to get legal description for exactly what we're doing for the easement from Rod Skifton. Won't be any fencing, and it is equipment storage for rental equipment, mostly trailers and counterweights that go on the cranes. And to address the access, there's an easement right here on the front of the property between Rod's and Rod's property now goes all the way to the back to the storage units, but we have an easement as well that comes off the highway there, so no need to do another entrance. So, about it, pretty simple. Any questions I can answer?
Were you gonna have any lighting on there?
Nope.
No lighting.
Just overflow stuff. Everything that we do early in the morning or when we leave for trips or whatever else is all over here at the crane yard, so.
So Dusty, what have you done to make sure you're mitigating Valley Soil and Water Conservation District as far as they're concerned regarding lubrication oil and runoff?
Well, this property all slopes, the irrigation stuff is all the way back here and it all slopes this way.
Okay.
So I don't see how anything would ever make it to the back. And this is probably, I don't know, a good 800 feet to the back of the property there,
Gotcha.
from where we'd be doing anything. And obviously we won't be mechanicing and turning wrenches or anything else, just gonna be park stuff there and gravel. So we're basically gonna over excavate this about 2 feet, bring in good pit running and then gravel on top of that, so. Can't park out there in the spring or the fall when it starts getting wet because it makes a muddy mess, so. I don't know what else they want me to do to mitigate it other than what you normally make sure that your stuff's not leaking. Any questions?
any questions?
I like it.
I would like to clarify
It ties to that other piece where you're already at, access would be way better. We'll have to fight with highway, the
I'd like to buy it,
neighbors.
but they won't sell it to me, so.
I think it's a good fit.
Go ahead, Cindy.
I would like to clarify something, just for enforcement potential.
Mhm.
Can you describe that landscaping better, please?
So according to point number 14, we gotta have a tree every 25 feet, so I'll have to figure out, I didn't measure what that road frontage was, but however many trees we have to have, we'll come in here and make sure our entrance is here and then just screen with however many trees we have to have, and obviously have water right here so we can irrigate those trees and make sure they survive. So let's screen this 100 feet going north to south with those trees we're required to put in for the street frontage. My guess is that's probably about 400 feet, so it's probably 16 or so trees we'll have to be planted there.
Will there be any fencing?
No. Oh,
Alrighty, do we have anyone signed up for this application? Is there anyone on the phone who would like to testify on this application? As a proponent, uncommitted, or opponent? I'll give you just a minute to get your phone unmuted. Okay, hearing none. No Art Troutner? Okay. We will go ahead and close the public hearing.
So the deputy confirmed that there was nobody wanting to testify in person.
That is correct.
All right, we'll bring it to the table for discussion.
I don't have any comments at this time.
As I said earlier, I like how it looks to the existing site. Their access to the highway won't be, they won't have to go around like we would have on the other lot. You're pretty closer.
Yeah, I think it's good use of that acreage right there. It's a good fit for their business and overflow storage, so.
Right.
Cindy, can you clarify for me, based on this CUP, will only that 1 acre portion of the larger lot be allowed for that use? And
Yes.
the rest of it has to remain the same?
Yeah, that's why I asked for the easement for that.
And the dimensions of the site?
Dimensions, right? Because
Okay,
that he can't spread throughout the property, it's just on that 1 acre site.
okay. Perfect. All right, I don't have any other comments. But this time I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve conditional use permit 20-08 associated conditions of approval.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. There's a 10-day appeal period if, to the Board of County Commissioners if someone doesn't like our decision. Thank you. Okay, the next item of business is CUP 20-10 Clear Creek Crossing preliminary plat. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing. Is there any ex parte or conflict of interest?
Yes.
No.
No.
Don't fall off the edge.
Oh, yeah. Take a quick trip.
Yeah, looking for retirement.
Okay, Cinda, can we please have a staff report?
Okay, the staff report for conditional use permit application 20-10, Clear Creek Crossing preliminary plat. The applicant is Nick Schleckaway with Green River Project LLC. The agent is James Fromm Consulting. The site is 80.23 acres and is located in the northeast of Section 4, Township 12 North, Range 4 East of the Boise Meridian, Valley County, Idaho. The site has existing conditional use permit approval for a 7-lot, single-family residential subdivision on 80.23 acres with 5 buildable parcels and 2 open space parcels. On-site infrastructure completed to date consists of subbase road grading, ditch culvert installation, and erosion control measures. Nick Schleckaway of Green River Project LLC is requesting a new conditional use permit for a 9-lot, single-family residential subdivision on the 80.23 acres with 8 buildable parcels and 1 open space parcel. Proposed lots range in size from approximately 4 acres to 18 acres. Individual well and septic systems are proposed. Access to each lot will be from a proposed gravel private road that will intersect Atkin Lane. Atkin Lane is a public road that was platted as a 50-foot right-of-way road easement. In 1996, Judge Carey declared all roads in Newell subdivision a public right-of-way. This includes Atkin Lane. The proposed road will be 2,658 lineal feet with a maximum 7% grade. A variance is requested for the length of the proposed cul-de-sac road. The new application will not alter the previously approved road. Alpha Ditch runs through this property. The new application will not alter any previously approved construction plans or agreements with the Alpha Ditch Company. Newell subdivision is a recorder's plat that was created at Book 5, page 3 on September 17, 1973. Application was made to Planning and Zoning on June 1st, 2020. Legal notice was posted in the Star News on June 18th and 25th. Potentially affected agencies were notified on June 9th. Neighbors within 300 feet of the property line were notified by fact sheet sent June 9th, and the site was posted on June 25th. Agency comments received. Central District Health Department replied that the applicant will need to update the application, pay additional fees, and conduct test holes on site. An engineering report is also needed. Alpha Ditch Company requested that the license agreement recorded on July 19, 2019 as instrument 422071 be used with no changes. And then listed were comments from various agencies from the previous application. For this application, we didn't hear from any of them. You know, a couple of them are from Stephen Hall, the fire chief, all of that is still applicable. And then Kelly Coperi, Valley County Dispatch. Neighbor comments received, Sandy Hunish, 24 Atkin Lane, states that the latest plat does not fully address the protection needed for her irrigation pipeline across the proposed subdivision. She requests more specific wording and a minimum width of 15 feet. See the letter for specific wording. The driveway for Lot 1 will cross over her irrigation pipe. She should not be responsible for any driveway repair required when repairing the irrigation line. Any special residential fencing desired by lot owners will be at their expense. Physical characteristics of the site, it varies from meadow to rolling open areas and then up a hill. There are wetlands that exist. Surrounding land use and zoning includes agricultural and cattle grazing on the north and west. To the south is cattle grazing and single-family residences, and to the east is productive forest land. Proposal is categorized under 2 residential uses, C subdivision for single-family subdivision. I listed different portions of the ordinance here for your review. Staff's compatibility rating is a positive 16. I do have some questions. Have there been any discussions with neighbors concerning maintenance of Atkin Lane, a public road that is privately maintained? Have there been any discussions with Ms. Hunish concerning an easement for the buried irrigation pipe, including maintenance of the line? Will power be above ground or below ground? Where will the power come from? Will you have CC&Rs? If so, please address lighting, limit on number of wood burning devices to one per site, and firewise vegetation. The agreement with Alpha Ditch shall be noted on the plat. This area is open range, and lot owners will be required to fence to keep neighboring livestock out of their property. How will you keep silt and runoff from construction site on lots 3, 4, and 5 from going into the ditch? Why do you not continue the cul-de-sac? It appears lots 4, 5, and 6 will continue using the same roadway, but will turn into a shared driveway. What is the grade on the driveways and road? Shared driveway agreements will be required, and they must also be constructed prior to the final plat approval, so the fire department can improve the construction. Note 5 has a spelling correction, where to where. Conditions of approval are as follows. 1, the application, the staff report, and the provisions of the land use and development ordinance are all made a part of this permit as if written in full herein. 2, any change in the nature or scope of land use activities shall require an additional conditional use permit. 3, the final plat shall be recorded within 2 years, or this permit will be null and void. 4, the issuance of this permit, these conditions will not relieve the applicant from complying with applicable county, state, or federal laws or regulations, or be construed as permission to operate in violation of any statute or regulation. Violation of these laws, regulations, or rules may be grounds for revocation of the conditional use permit or grounds for suspension of the conditional use permit. 5, all lighting must comply with the Valley County lighting ordinance. 6, must have an approved stormwater management plan and site grading plan approved by the Valley County engineer prior to any work being done on site. 7, a shared road agreement should be recorded for the private road and the shared driveways. 8, shall have an agreement with Alpha Ditch that is a recorded document and noted on the face of the plat. 9, CC&R should recommend firewise landscaping. 10, shall not identify ditch as a trail or pathway on the plat. 11, staff shall communicate to the Valley County engineer that the Planning and Zoning Commission is concerned with the draw and potential drainage issues. 12, shall participate financially and proportionally with neighbors to make improvements to Atkin Lane in a road maintenance agreement if an association or cooperation co-op is formed. This provision should be placed in the CC&Rs. 13, shall place all irrigation easements on the plat, shall also show the irrigation pipe to the Hunish property. And that ends my staff report.
Okay, thank you, Cinda. Is there any questions of staff?
No, I don't.
I have none.
Are these, some of these conditions of approval from the previous? Okay. And then which ones? The drainage issues, was that addressed last time? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the way that the lots were shaped last time, but there was only 5 lots previously. Is that correct?
Right, and the previous lots were split by the road, and there was no construction approved below the road.
That's right.
And I remember Mr. Kennedy's, was concerned that it was the draw of the water would be coming down through there. I know that the ditch company's concern was sediment and things going off into the ditch.
Mhm. Okay. Okay,
And then Candace across the street, she was concerned that more water would run across Atkin Lane. Those were the drainage issues I remember.
yeah. Okay. All right, at this time, we would hear a presentation from the applicant. If you could please state your name and address for the record at the podium.
Submission, we have some exhibits to give.
Is that something new?
New.
Okay.
Answer to some of the questions from staff. I can hand them out however you want.
Yeah, go ahead and hand Matt, I'll hold it up for the camera to look at quickly.
We also have a larger one, but we don't have a board. I don't know if you have,
I'll come to drape it over that one.
I'm gonna show this exhibit was presented by the applicant. What do you mean?
Pretty good. Exhibit number 1.
Thank you.
Watch out for the quarters.
Thank you.
Baker Schleckelway, 140 North Hearthstone, Boise, Idaho, 3702. Thank you very much for your time, appreciate it. I just wanted to cover, first of all, the reason behind the change in the first place from the last CUP that was approved, increasing the buildable lots from 5 to 8. It's really the chief difference between the last CUP that was approved and this one. And really doesn't change the character of the development in terms of being a large acreage development. The smallest lot in the new proposal is 3.6, ranges up to 18.4 acres. So the intention behind it, there's 5 different things I wanted to cover very quickly for you and explain why we changed it from 5 to 8 buildable parcels. The first is to spread the cost of road maintenance. So the private road that was approved is about half a mile long. So obviously a long road that needs to be maintained, spreading that out over 8 homeowners instead of 5 is more cost effective for the HOA. There is going to be, jumping ahead a little bit, but there is covenants that have been drawn up for this. There's an HOA that is going to maintain this private road. Everybody will pay dues as a part of maintenance of the road on an annual basis for maintaining it. So first thing is spreading that cost out amongst more homeowners. That was why we increased. The second is simply more efficient use of the parcels. In the previous CUP that was approved, there was a parcel, 3A and 4A, that really kind of dead space that wouldn't be very useful. So converting those into buildable parcels and then also adding parcel 1, more efficient use of the land for the development. The third reason for the increase is really to improve the character of the development from the entrance. So getting a buildable parcel near the entrance of the development close to Atkin Lane, that's a lot more in line with the surrounding neighborhood. Most everyone has a home that's right off of Atkin Lane. So we felt like adding a buildable parcel that was close to the entrance, close to Atkin Lane itself, which is parcel 1 is the one I'm talking about. Adding that for that purpose, to improve the character of the development, getting a home near that and in line with the rest of the development. The fourth is quite simply, I underestimated the cost of the improvements. I underestimated the cost of the road and the power install, which will be laying ground, and also crossing Atkin Lane by probably 25-30%. It turned out to be about 30% higher than originally estimated to install those things. The fifth reason for the increase kind of relates to the fourth in terms of cost. The The fifth is the length of time that it took us to get the agreement executed with the Alpha Ditch Company to cross the ditch. It took about 6 months to get that done, and I had to hire an attorney and go through quite a lengthy process to get that license agreement agreed to and inked. So that delay did a number of things. You know, legal fees got factored in for the attorneys, cost of construction for the actual crossing itself increased a little bit, and the biggest cost was the delay. So the 6-month delay pushed me into an entirely new development season. We can't install roads and ditch crossings in the winter or in early spring because they're wet. So instead of getting this done last summer or last fall, everything got pushed into this year. Now, not only does the delay just cause money, cost time, but construction costs are rising rapidly. So adding another year to that increases the cost of materials, increases the cost of labor to get the road finished and everything else completed. So those were the 5 reasons why we are planning to increase it from 5 billable to 8. And then I wanted to address a couple of the staff questions that were on the staff report. And then I'll have Jim come up and address some of them as well. So the first question on the report was have there been any discussions with neighbors concerning maintenance of Atkin Lane, which is technically a public road but privately maintained? None of substance. You know, I attempted to broach some of those conversations when we were going back and forth with the ditch crossing because it's all the same group of people essentially, and I really weren't interested in coming to an agreement on that. I would expect for the same reason that they haven't formed an agreement in the past on how they want to maintain that road. So there was no conversation of substance concerning maintenance of that lane that took place. Second question, discussions with Ms. always butcher Sandy's last name, Hunish. I think that's right, concerning the easement. Yeah, I talked to her, and actually the plot that you have in front of you shows a 20-foot easement for her irrigation line that runs across lot 1. And then across lot 2 and goes up the hill to our irrigation box that her and I share. So there is a 20-foot easement that is in place to protect the irrigation pipe and protect her access to it. Power will be below ground. That was another question. Will be come from Atkin Lane. Idaho Power will install below ground access down Clear Creek Crossing Way and up and accessing each lot. Each lot will have power brought to it from the road underground. We will have covenants. I mentioned that earlier, and we'll certainly address lighting, wood burning, appliances, firewise landscaping. That stuff is all actually already on there, and the covenants are about 99% done. I'm just waiting for the results of this meeting to wrap them up. So the covenants are there, and then the HOA and the road sharing agreement, all that is incorporated in those documents. Agreement with Alpha Ditch to be noted on the plat, yep. And then open range, lot owners will be required to fence to keep neighboring livestock out of their property. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody up there that agrees to do that. I've always done that. That'll be in the covenants, and everybody will be informed of that when they purchase this part of it. They have to maintain the fence, keep livestock on it. And then the next question was about silt runoff, and I'll have Jim come up and talk about that. Do you want to ask me questions before Jim comes up and addresses the rest of the staff questions, or anyone do that?
I have one question on lot 1
Yes.
down here, and it's where her buried irrigation pipe
Yes.
goes almost through the middle of that property all the way out. Whoever purchased that, they're definitely going to be made aware that there is an irrigation pipe underneath there. There is an easement, and then if they build a driveway or something and break it or damage it, then I would feel it'd be lot 1 owner's responsibility to fix that. Is that something that's going to be written into something specific to lot 1?
Certainly can.
You know,
Makes
to
total sense.
protect that irrigation
Yeah.
pipe? Because when I originally looked at some of the original maps, I thought it was up here higher.
Mm.
But there's no road out here, and actually it doesn't show a road here, but whoever buys that is probably gonna pioneer a road in there, and they're gonna make sure that that underground irrigation pipe has protection on it.
Are you gonna have the same situation with lot two?
Will, because there'll be a driveway, most likely places as the slope starts to increase up here that goes along, so it'll be the same situation.
Same situation, yeah. That's what I say.
You talked about the CC&Rs which are being developed, and you mentioned that the road maintenance was included on those. Is that the road maintenance for the road within your subdivision or for with Atkin Lane as well?
Not Atkin Lane, just Clear Creek Crossing Way is this road in the subdivision.
Okay.
And the shared driveways that are going to come out of this, which Jim will talk about a little bit, but there's 3 shared driveways that access the 6 lots up on the hill. Each shared driveway accesses 2 of the lots, and there'll be agreements on this.
Would you be willing to put in their maintenance agreement with the Atkin Lane homeowners as well? Because I think that that's a privately maintained road. Is that correct, Cinda?
It's privately maintained. There is there is an association for Atkin Lane.
Okay.
Did you say there was?
There is. It's old and it was done so someone could get financing. Because there is an association, they don't collect fees, they don't do anything.
They don't have a board.
Who plows that road? Does the county plow it?
Private
Private.
people.
So as the property owner of, what is this, a 30 acre, however big the lot is, here it's more than that, 80. So did you pay to maintain the road previously at all?
There's never been an organized effort.
And I guess there's no homes out here, so you weren't accessing the land in the middle of the winter.
So the condition of approval that was proposed was shall participate financially and proportionally with neighbors to make improvements to Atkin Lane in a road maintenance agreement if an association or cooperation is formed. This provision should be placed in the CC&Rs.
Okay.
So if they want to organize, they'll have to participate.
Okay. Is that acceptable?
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
it'll be the same agreement that we had with the last group.
All right. I didn't have any other questions for you.
I have no further questions.
Yeah, I'm good.
Did we want to hear more testimony from
Yeah, Jim
Mr.
was
Fromm?
just gonna address some of the questions about silt runoff and cul-de-sac and grading.
Perfect.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jim Frank. I'm with James Frank Consulting on 14028 Norwood Road, Holt, Idaho. I'll move over. It's all right with you guys over by that. Are you good with your pictures and you have in your hand? It would be helpful with that.
Are you gonna be talking to that?
I can just point it to the driveways. It'd be easier.
Yeah, maybe we'll have you come over here and point at them. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, that's fine.
Getting your exercise.
So the first question of staff is how will you keep silt and runoff from construction site 3, 4, and 5 from going into the ditch? My proposal, the proposal of the applicant is because there's really a small area between where the septic fields are located on the site and the spot where the top of, or just below the top of the crest of the hill. The building envelope is pretty much fixed. With that, I would prefer to do it on a lot by lot basis for those 3 lots, to where each, once they have the house plans, we can prepare a specific erosion and sediment control plan for that. That would be the best way to go. Now, I don't know if we have mechanisms to do it for individual lots. The other way, which would address it, as a whole across the front of that. I'll address it as a whole. The slope is somewhat steep, but not severely steep. The goal of the applicant, I'll get back into why the driveways are, is to have less disturbance to native plant material. And rather than have silt fence that doesn't last very long, is to go into more of a bio approach with wattles or bio roads that are of significant size that can last the time of construction and then build in as far as landscaping being built in. My experience in the past, if the bio rows are significantly stacked and separated properly and large enough in size, that they will do more than an adequate job of maintaining sediment and holding that movement of sediment to the downhill areas. The benefit of that is over time, they will go away and take over with the natural vegetation. So the transition between what would be a manicure area to what is natural would go gradual over time. So we wouldn't remove them right away, we'd leave them in place, is what I would propose to do. During construction, however, I would put up a silt fence during early construction and through the winter, first winter, just to get their immediate runoff from any rainstorms, but more particularly snow. And that can be channeled by using temporary best management practices that are identified in the DEQ handbook for small cities. And that is done by putting in temporary ditches or small swales, directing the runoff to a certain spot where they have temporary basins, which drop the sediment. And then from there, there's a timing and sequence of maintenance. So at certain points after those events, you go in and clean it out. But after a certain period of time, after the first year, those really won't be necessary after they have developed their landscaping and grown in their areas. So from a broad sense, we could submit to the county engineer the whole plan across the face of it, but I think it would be more probably a better idea to do it site individually so that we can be site specific.
I have a proposed condition of approval for that, if
Okay.
you want to hear it now.
Sure.
To address what Jim was saying. Place a note on the plat, lots 3, 4, and 5 should be required to submit stormwater plans to Valley County Engineer for approval in order to keep silt and runoff from Alpha Ditch at homeowner's expense.
Yeah, that sounds fine. I think it's a better result that way.
And that way each would create a plan once they're ready to build.
Once
So-
they know where their house is gonna be.
Yeah, okay. Yep, I like that.
Any other questions on a specific item?
Not on that one.
Why did you not continue the cul-de-sac? This is another staff question. It appears 4, 5, and 6 will continue using the same roadway, but will turn into a shared driveway. The new document that I just presented to you addresses that concern specifically on where these shared driveways would be. And this new presentation, lots 6 and 5 are a shared driveway with a 40-foot easement, with a 20-foot shared drive, goes up to 150 feet, which doesn't require a hammerhead or some kind of turnaround because of the length of it. But that allows these two to split off. What's different from what you saw in the packet is that we've moved the driveway, the shared driveway, similar for lots 4 and 3. Come along and approach both of these. Just if you see the landscape, if you've been out there, there's a ridge that runs across the top. And the goal of this is to kind of keep the entrance coming in clean. So you don't see these scars on the landscape. Although you'll have some views from here, but people are not really looking at that. They're looking at other views. So we're trying to minimize that. So this road for 3 and 4 and 3, sits on the other side of the ridge and works its way up and actually works really nice with the grade that's there. You don't have a whole lot of cut into the upper side, and we can spill over on the downhill side. Why did we not extend the cul-de-sac further? Again, it was several items. One is looking at the previously approved construction plans by the county. We had it up to a certain point, but we were maxing out grade with that a grade that we thought was appropriate for this type of county or private road, county standard private road. First, safety wise, it's in the north, it's in the shadow, it doesn't get the sun in some areas, so we wanted not to exceed, try to keep it around 7 to 8% was the goal. And so that being said, we get up to this point right here and we max that out. We can't get any higher with that grade. So the shared driveways allow us to tackle it a different way and accomplish two things. One, we can go a steeper grade with less impact to the existing ground, because the cul-de-sac, as it moves up at 8%, we're making a big cut and it just chases everything up the hill. Whereas these driveways can come in and separate once they get to their point. But the grade is allowed to be a little bit steeper. The road is not as wide, and so there we don't have as much cut bank and fill over the side. So between what we think is appropriate design, the 7 to 8%, and having these driveways anywhere between 9 and 10, which is what we're trying to hold it to. Standard is 12 in the county. Is what we're trying to accomplish with that. So if there's any questions on an approach or what we're proposing to do, I'd be happy to answer that.
I have one question on the cul-de-sac. Used to be 96 feet in diameter, that's correct. That's what the fire chief, Steve Hall.
Right.
And so there's no change in the diameter of the cul-de-sac?
Nothing has changed in this road since the previous.
Okay, so it's all.
Yeah, it's all the same.
I just have one other question. They're requiring a 10,000 gallon fire suppression water storage tank. Do we have a location for that on this site?
Well, we're trying to keep.
As far as maybe the best placement for that?
Right now, we're thinking close to Atkins so that people can get advantage of it from all over the area. And in the entrance to the subdivision, it's a central location. It's a place that's flat that we can have a turnaround for them back in, however they want to do it.
Well, that's why I was leading to that question about the placement of that tank, as far as if you've been in contact with him to have him come out and, with a proposed site like that.
Well, his comments back are that we're to work with him
Okay.
as this is coming more. Yes, look at the tank, yes, look at the specification of the tank. Along with that, we want to talk to him about where he thinks it's good spot. From my past experiences, you want to have a central location. They don't want to get up to the place where they have to go pump on the side of the hill. They'd rather, make short trips to the tank. And so there's some benefits with that. There may be some cost benefits with lot 1. Share a well just to keep that 10,000 tank supplied for that initial attack.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
There was back to the conditions. I thought I read somewhere here about the discussions on this drainage coming through here. So it's already been tackled with the previous project.
Well, that was, we would let the Valley County engineer be aware that there were concerns from previous people that testified of water coming through that draw and down. And we let the Valley County engineer know about those concerns, and it was addressed as part of the stormwater management plan previously.
Right.
my understanding,
Yeah, it was.
recollection.
The area of drainage was calculated, they confirmed it. The amount of runoff coming across the land and various types of vegetation slope was calculated, they confirmed. Our extensive BMPs in this area that were proposed was confirmed and agreed upon. So really hasn't changed since the last time. Any other questions of me?
The only other question I had was about the name of the road. And I don't know, Cinda, if that's something, or was the name rejected by the sheriff's office? Or was it suggested to be changed?
It was just a suggestion. We'll settle on the road name.
Does that need to be something that we discuss as a condition of approval? No? Okay. Okay,
That is actually, the final say is the assessor,
got it.
so that there isn't duplication with other names. We do have an ordinance that states it has to be of not over a certain length.
Mm-hmm.
Certain roads that goes different distances or named way or place or court or,
Oh,
so
okay,
there's those types of things, but we'll settle on the name.
okay. And that can be done outside of this meeting.
Yes.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I don't have any.
I have none.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Alrighty, I see that we have people here to testify for this. So if you'd like to come in just one at a time, unless you're together. And you can come right over here to the podium. There's a microphone. You can take your
Maybe
mask.
this gentleman first because
Oh,
he needs to testify and leave,
okay.
so
So-
everyone's treated the same.
Sorry about that, ma'am. I'll have you step back out. Sir, if you'd like to go ahead and testify, if you could state your name and address into the microphone for the record, please. Oh,
They're talking to you. You can come up and testify if you want.
How many lots is gonna be there now in the new deal? 8? That's 2 more than before, right? 3 more? That doubles the traffic on Atkin Lane, which is not that's self-maintained lane. And the owners of the property there now pays a guy to take care of it. So it's gonna take more care, more maintenance, I would think, so. My opinion, thank you.
thank you
I
very
missed
much.
your name.
Gary Halfstrider.
Did you get that?
Gary?
Gary.
And sir, after you testify, you need to leave, yes. We're just filtering people through.
Okay.
Cindy, did you get an address?
Yeah. Sir, could you state your address?
They want to know where you live at. What's your address? You can tell them what your address is.
85 Atkin Lane,
85. Perfect.
last place on the right.
Thank you so much, sir. All right. Come on in. If you could please state your name and address into the microphone as a matter for the record. And if it's easier, you don't have to testify with the mask on. Okay. It's easier for us to hear you if it's not on. But you do whatever you feel comfortable doing. Okay.
My name is Sandy Hoynish, and I live at 24 Atkin Lane. And I came tonight to have some clarification and ask some questions. I've handed in my questions and thoughts. So my number one was answered tonight, and that had a lot to do with my protection of my irrigation pipe that comes across. And I'm very happy that I've been given 20 feet so that I can get a big tractor in there. So my number one has pretty much been answered for myself. My number two has to do with lot 1 Lot 1 and Lot 2, I should have put in my message to Cinda. By the way, hello, commissioners and Cinda administrator and Nick and Clear Creek Crossing. I forgot to say that. Anyway, my number 2 deals with the road that goes across my irrigation pipe. I'm assuming that Lot 2 and 1 will have their road along my fence, which is on their west border of the Clear Creek Crossing. And so it's going to come right across my irrigation pipe. And I didn't want to be responsible for any type of, if I have to make repairs on the irrigation pipe, to tear up their road, replace their road. And so my question was, when you have easement, is that what that means? That you don't have to pay for any kind of construction that's been put above your irrigation pipe? Or am I taken care of there, or do we need to put something in the plat that protects me?
So typically during this process, we don't answer questions, but I
Okay.
will make an exception just because of the way that this hearing is being conducted. We had previously drafted up a condition of approval during the applicant's presentation regarding the financial responsibility. If there was any damage to your pipe, would be the responsibility of the landowner.
Thank you. That answers that.
Yep.
My next is about the fencing. I think y'all talked a little bit about it, but I border Clear Creek and Nick Slickaway property all on the western side and all on the northern side, so there's quite a bit of exposure. And right now, for the last 3 years, we have been maintaining that fence so cattle doesn't go into Mr. Slickaway's property. My understanding is that Idaho law is, as you said tonight, they're responsible to keep it out. We have been going half and half on that, or that's the usual my farm does with the property owner. But I know city dwellers, and I know they like fancy fences, and I didn't know if we need to put, I guess this is another question. I don't know. I only want to be responsible for my barbed wire fence that keeps the cattle out and not fancy fences for their property. Is that may we take care of that?
We'll ask the applicant to address that when they do their rebuttal.
Thank you. Well, that pretty much takes care of that. I would like to make one comment in closing. On Plat 1, all the neighbors were agreed, not necessarily what we wanted perhaps, but we all agreed. And with Plat 2, 10 acres of we had 20, and 10 acres of our open or green, we like to call it green area, have been removed. So may I suggest for our neighborhood that on lot 1 now, I guess it is, the large one with the 18, that the commissioners
Lot 2.
and Nick might think about allowing 10 acres from lot number 1 to be put back into the green area, so that we can have a little closer aesthetic view of this subdivision as we go down Atkin Lane. Something else it will do, it will put my irrigation pipe in more open space. It will protect it a little more, plus it will make it not get in the way with so much from whatever the landowner decides to do. So I wanted to ask y'all to think about that a little bit, please. Unless y'all have a question for me, I'm all finished. Thank you very much for
Thank you
listening.
so much. All right, sir. If you could please state your name and address for the record. And we didn't mention it before, but we do have a time limit on testimony. So if you could just keep it short, it's typically about 3 minutes.
Dan Moore, 29 Atkin Lane, Cascade. I presented at the first hearing at this board, and my major concerns is Atkin Lane. I live right on Atkin Lane, one of the first properties on Atkin Lane, directly in line with their subdivision. As it stands, Atkin Lane was not built as a public access. It's been private till the last very few years. Most people don't know it's public at this point. So it's a private lane built for a ranch, built as a driveway, not built for traffic. Okay, it's very narrow, it's like a one-lane road. Doesn't have any foundation at all. It has jelly rolls all through it. Every spring, we bury trucks and four-wheel drives in the jelly rolls, and so a lot of times I have to pull out the tractors or heavy equipment to get through the lane as it is. The lane is not set up to take the traffic that's being proposed. With their proposal for their subdivision, it'll more than double traffic, guaranteed more than double, possibly triple traffic on this lane. It was not developed for that traffic. For weight classification for trucks, it's not developed for trucks to go through for the road construction or for the house construction and all the major construction that's going to take place if this happens. So that's my main thing. Second thing is maintenance. We proposed, several proposed at one of the first meetings that we were allowed to talk, is the maintenance. It talked about, possibly forming a maintenance agreement with the local people. The challenge with that is, I've been there for 36 years and know all the locals. Most of us are not in favor of a maintenance agreement because we've been able to maintain it on a very low cost with some mostly volunteer, with some additional help with cost-wise. And that's the way most of the locals want to keep it. So this development comes in with the $500,000 to $1 million houses coming in, where nothing else in that subdivision is even a quarter of that value. The standard is going to be higher for the Atkin Lane. They're going to want to be able to come in with their sports cars or whatever all year long and be plowed and be taken care of and not have dust or whatever the case may be, so they don't dust out their car. That's always been something the locals were this used to. We went slow, we knew how to dodge the potholes and the jelly rolls, and we knew how to get through it. That's going to change. And that's a major concern to us. So the other thing is dust abatement. The road has just got an inch of dust on top of it, and they're already going through right now and developing and looking at such. Traffic flow has already increased majorly this last year since this proposal. So the dust is something that most subdivisions have a dust abatement policy when they're constructing at least. Nothing's been addressed to dust abatement. And also, like I said, the cost. We don't feel it's fair for the locals that have dealt with this road for 100 years should have to fund the cost to upgrade the road to a standard for a high-price subdivision. In most counties, most places, I've done some research, that is on the responsibility of the subdivider to build up the road to a standard, county standard. Then they can do a maintenance agreement after that, but the local shouldn't have to build the road back up and pay for that. That should not happen, in our opinion. Speed, they're already going through fast. When they put up for sale signs, property owners can come through from all over part of the United States, come in, they're gonna be flying down the road at 50, 40, 30 miles an hour. Speed limit's 10, but no one's adhering to that. Of the new people coming in now, they're not adhering to that even close. And the last thing, I know my time's up, is right now I rode up that road, or access road, just the other night before Wheeler, it's real slow. There's already water coming across their road in the lower levels of the flood stage. There's water across the road. There's several feet of water at the top of the road where they build up a couple feet. Right now, there's water running over the top of the road. I have water drainage coming from their property, coming through my property right now. It's been higher than it's been for the last 15 years through my property, coming off of their property since they put the road across, and there's no drainage across the road. I only found one culvert going across their access road all the way through the wetlands. All the water is coming down the hill now. It's going across Atkin Lane, flooding out several property owners. And that's not in the, high water year compared to some years. We're worried about the drainage coming across Atkin Lane, destroying Atkin Lane. The culverts aren't very good across Atkin Lane. The drainage is not made for that load because they blocked off the normal drainage to their wetlands with the road, and I don't see proper drainage through Circuit Crossing Road. There's not proper drainage for that water to go where it normally has gone. So now it's coming across Atkin Lane and it's going to flood Fairwoods out. Several concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, did we have anyone else here to testify? All right, is there anyone who's called in on the phone who would like to testify for this application, either as a proponent, uncommitted, or as an opponent? Give you a minute to get your phone unmuted if you would like to testify. Okay, hearing no one, and the sheriff confirmed that there's nobody outside left to testify, we would now hear a rebuttal from the applicant.
And James Frank with, or Jim Frank. As far as the road and the drainage that he's observing when he goes on property, it's because what they put in was subgrade. They removed the unsuitables and came in with what is the standard for subgrade. It's not quite to that elevation that it needs to be. So it was a point of trying to get up to the canal to get the adequate size culvert into it, and that's where it stopped. So what you're seeing now is a combination of seeping of the ditch, which is minor, that would normally go into a culvert and head into the adjacent ditches or the wetland area. So it's nothing has really changed. There isn't additional water out there, nothing. There's no fundamental change in anything other than they put a road there and it's flat. Where those, what were probably, well, I know what they were cut out by ranching over time to make those swales meet up with the different other irrigation swales, and that's what that is. So I don't know if you have any questions on that, but.
Would you or Mr. Schleckaway like to address the cost of the fence that Miss?
That's above my pay grade, so if you're done with me on that.
Yeah. I think what her question was is that if the homeowners decide to install an upgraded fence, she didn't want to be liable for half of the cost of the upgrade because that's the current agreement.
Correct. But she wouldn't be.
Okay.
So any fencing has to be approved by the HOA as part of the covenants.
Okay.
And there's limits on, I don't remember exactly what they are, but heights and styles and sizes. It has to fit with the community that's being developed. So she would not be responsible for maintaining any of that. So, and the other thing Sandy had was just talking about the open space. And so I just wanted to point out that lot 2 that she was talking about, which is about 18.5 acres, covenants restrict the number of structures that you can put on these parcels. You can have 1 primary and no more than 2 secondary. So the reality is that most of that 18.5 acres is going to remain open space. There's going to be very little of that that's taken out the structures. Just her general comment about the character of that field and how it looks, and keeping a bunch of green spaces, it will be maintained, except for a primary and 2 secondary structures. I want to address the road that obviously continues to come up, Atkin Lane. Condition and maintenance of this road is much easier than is being made out, and was made out the last time I went through this process. If condition and maintenance of Atkin Lane was so extremely difficult and was in such poor shape, the residents would have formed an association to address the problem a long time ago. This is not a significant problem. The road is in good shape most of the year. I'd also like to point out, the concerns that are brought up about construction efforts on the development damaging the road. The road has not been damaged at all. It's in exactly the same condition it was in last summer, and there's already been significant construction that has happened on this development. The road has been, rubbed out. There's been subgrade installed. There was a 60-foot culvert that was hauled up there and installed across the ditch. There's been significant heavy equipment stored on this site. It all happened last summer and last fall, and there was no damage done to the road whatsoever. So these concerns, while I understand them, I think are unfounded that the road is going to be significantly damaged by the construction efforts for the development. And I guess the last comment about the road maintenance is, and the gentleman brought it up, something about the developer bringing Atkin Lane up to county standards. That opens up a can of worms. There's homes that are within 10 feet, 15 feet of Atkin Lane right now there's fences, there's gates that are right on Atkin Lane. If you increase Atkin Lane to a 70-foot wide county standard, somebody's going to have to move their house because there's not enough room to do that. So their comments about improving that thing to county standards, I really don't see that as even feasible or possible because of where their houses are located along that road. There's just not enough room to do it, even if it was something that I agreed to do, or which I don't. Just to make that clear, but it's really not possible to do that without displacing residents completely. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, the only other comment I'd make on the road is just repeating the same comments I made with the last conditional approval, with the last plat, which is I'm happy to participate in a sharing agreement if there's one put together, but I don't feel like it should be my responsibility to come along and fix something that they've had going for 20, 30, 40 years and have never put something together. I'm happy to take my part in it and participate if they want to put something together.
What about dust abatement during construction? Would you be willing to do maybe like an annual dust abatement treatment to the road?
Yeah, I wanted to address that. Don't know exactly what's involved in that, but.
Okay. So I had a couple.
Sorry, Cindy, go ahead. As a part of construction, I'm happy to address knocking dust down, but I'm not going to agree to an annual
Right,
dust abatement.
just during the construction of the road and all of the subdivision, not all of the subdivision construction,
Right.
what you said also. You have a question, Ray?
No, I know Atkins Lane, like I said, I agree with you. If we wanted to brought up to county spec, people would be losing property along there. I'm quite familiar with that area. And, I really wish that there could be an agreement between you and people on Atkins Lane, some type of an agreement as far as maintenance on the road, where it's a cost shared thing. It doesn't sound to me like we want to enter into an agreement with you.
No, and I think the gentleman stated as such that they're not interested in entering an agreement to do that. They don't want to enter an agreement to do that.
I have no further questions.
I did have, before you close the public hearing, have some additions in case he wants to address those.
Okay.
The one that I already read into the record, I won't read again. The next one would be shall comply with requirements of the Cascade Rural Fire. Next, any damage to pipeline in 20-foot easement shall be repaired by the landowner. Next, any damage to established driveways due to pipeline repairs shall be repaired by the easement holder. And then the final one, it shall abate dust during construction.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, at this time, we will close the public hearing and bring it to the table for deliberation.
I don't know. You are. I don't have anything.
Okay,
I believe the applicant has answered all the questions I had in my mind, and the biggest question was that irrigation ditch.
Mhm.
And his willingness to maybe do a little dust abatement during construction. I think they more than met anything that would cause any kind of erosion during construction. As long as they're still going to adhere to the local fire chief's recommendation on the diameter of the cul-de-sac and getting with them as far as the proper placement or the convenient placement for that 10,000 gallon storage tank. I think they've met all of the criteria that I was concerned about.
perfect. I'll just, state for the record, we went through this application very rigorously a few years ago. And so we have a lengthy list of conditions of approval here. And I really appreciate the work that the applicant has done with the Alpha Ditch Company. I think that was a long process, but it was very important. And I'm glad that you were able to come to an agreement.
So all of my concerns and the concerns of the testimony I heard were addressed sufficiently, I feel. So at this time, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve conditional use permit number 20-10 with such stated conditions of approval.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. There is a 10-day appeal period to the Board of County Commissioners if you don't like our decision. All right. Next item of business. Do we need a break? Brian, did you say you needed
Yeah, I was
some
gonna
water?
just like get a drink of water.
Okay, we will just take a really short
I will.
recess, 2
real quick.
minutes.
Give me a second.
The video is still on.
Okay,
then?
that's fine.
Yeah, the video is on, so be careful what we say.
Yes.
All right, we will go ahead and resume. The next item of business is CUP 20-11. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there any ex parte or conflict of interest?
No.
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 All right, Cinda, can we please have a staff report?
Okay, the staff report for conditional use permit application number 20-11, Matlina Farms event venue. The applicant is Martin Family Declaration of Trust in care of Terry Martin. The site is located in Ashton Ridge subdivision, lot 6 in the northeast quarter of section 12, township 17 north, range 3 east of the Boise Meridian, Valley County, Idaho. And the site is addressed at 239 Ashton Lane and is 10.4 acres. Terry Martin is requesting approval to establish an event venue. Weddings and other events would be held at this site. Events would be held on the lawn area, in event tents, and the existing home, barn, and outbuildings. There will be a maximum of 1 event per week. Events would conclude by 11 p.m. Portable restrooms would be used. Electricity, propane, septic systems, and a well exist at the site. access from an existing driveway off Ashton Lane, a public road. Ashton Ridge Ranch subdivision was recorded on October 24th, 2006 at Book 11, page 8. CC and Rs are enclosed for review. Findings, application was made to planning and zoning on June 2nd, 2020. Legal notice was posted in the Star News on June 18th and 25th. Potentially affected agencies were notified on June 9th. Neighbors within 300 feet of the property line were notified by fact sheet sent June 9th, and the site was posted on June 25th. Agency comments received. Central District Health said the septic system on the property is sized for a 2-bedroom home and cannot be used by event attendees unless the dwelling is no longer occupied. The applicant will need to submit an accessory use application with more information. Neighbor comments received. And what I'm doing is listing, the topics that were repeated in the letters, and then I will declare who wrote the letters. Opposed, recorded CC&Rs of Ashton Ridge Ranch expressly state in section 6.1 that commercial and business use of a lot is not allowed. Rural residential area with residents who value peace and quiet and pastoral nature of the area. It's an agricultural area. Noise would be intrusive and inconsistent with current conditions. Increased fire danger, concern with lack of enforcement of proposed 11 p.m. closing time. No houses or structures to act as sound or visual barriers. Concern about what type of events would be held in addition to weddings. Increased traffic and concern about danger of partiers driving from the event. Repeated gatherings of up to 150 people on a weekly basis would change the tranquility enjoyed by the surrounding neighbors. The increased traffic, noise, congestion, and decreased property values would outweigh any potential economic effect on the community. The additional traffic, noise, outhouses, vehicle lights, and general commercialization that a weekly event venue proposes would be detrimental to the area. The events at the adjacent Jug Mountain Ranch shut down at 10 p.m. Event venues should occur on parcels in excess of 500 acres with no neighbors within a mile. Lack of local oversight to confirm that renters are complying with requirements. The existing light on the barn is very bright and doesn't comply with the lighting ordinance. If approved, there are recommendations given, including quiet hours, on-site representative, 120 guest maximum, number of event maximums, lighting, noise, shuttling of guests, outdoor tents, no camping, nor short-term rentals of home, and future review by the P&Z Commission. The letters were received from Sal Galucci, JJS Southwest LLC, Mark Mason, Melissa and Marty Rude, Amy Pemberton, Walt DeMille, Ann Link, Richard and Pamela McChrystal, Carrie and Andrew Fulkowski, John Link, Mark Morgan, Jim Evans, Amy and Paul Pemberton, David Nagelman, Wayne Solomon, Dell and Wendy Harris, Lona Nay Clausen, Kathleen Poston, Robert and Kitty Looper, Jeff and Kim Crane, Dr. Michael and Dara Pfister. Physical characters of the site: it's relatively flat, home, barn, and pasture, hay meadow land. Slopes on the west side of the parcel toward a creek into a wet area. Surrounding land use and zoning includes, to the north, Jug Mountain Ranch, which is PUD, homes and a golf course. South, single-family subdivisions. East, single-family subdivisions and agricultural. West, single-family subdivision in Jug Mountain. This proposal is categorized under 5 commercial uses: service business and recreation business. Listed different areas of the code for your review. Staff compatibility rating was a positive 10. I did have some questions and recommendations. The CC&Rs prohibit commercial uses. This should be considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission. We do not enforce CC&Rs. What is the maximum number of guests allowed? Are you proposing outdoor speakers or amplified music or public address systems of any kind? Will tents be removed after each event? Will guests be allowed to camp on site? Recommend the commission look at the conditions of approval proposed by Amy Pemberton and the sisters. Proposed conditions of approval are as follows. 1, the application, the staff report, and the provisions of the land use and development ordinance are all made a part of this permit as if written in full herein. 2, any change in the nature or scope of land use activities should require an additional conditional use permit. 3, the use must be established according to the phasing plan or this permit will be null and void. 4, the issuance of this permit, these conditions will not relieve the applicant from complying with applicable county, state, or federal laws or regulations, or be construed as permission to operate in violation of any statute or regulations. Violation of these laws, regulations, or rules may be grounds for revocation of the conditional use permit or grounds for suspension of the conditional use permit. 5, all lighting must comply with the Valley County lighting ordinance. 6, shall obtain a sign permit prior to installation of a sign. 7, shall have dedicated fire truck, emergency vehicle turnaround at the site. 8, shall provide for overflow parking on site. 9, driving and parking will not occur over the existing septic drain field. 10, all food will be catered in. All dishes, silverware, glasses, etc. will be catered in and taken off site to be washed. 11, the number of porta potties will be based upon recommendations for the number of people from Central District Health. 12, there should be no fireworks, campfires, or bonfires. 13, there should be no camping on site. 14, there shall be no ATVs, UTVs, or snowmobile events on site. 15, any loudspeakers, music, or PA system shall be in the barn and directed towards the interior of the barn. 16, events shall end at 10 p.m. 17, the owner or on-site manager shall be in attendance of all events. And 18, there shall only be a maximum of 2 events per month. And then additional comments received after the staff report was completed. And it's the same type of testimony that's already been discussed here. We received one letter from a proponent, Rob Grensky, and he's in support. Your home is closest residence to the barn with a direct line of sight. He's a woman of good character and integrity. And then the opponents who have the similar concerns and considerations are Michael Van Altina, Clay and Margaret Wright, Kathy and Paul Stover, Sharon DeGaramore, Russ and Barbara Rhodes, Beverly and Kent Hellman, Christy and Eric Pedersen, Dr. J. Mark Benson, and Lona Mae Clausen, Lynn Faith, William, and Crystal Vincent. And you received those letters this evening before the meeting started in your piles. And that ends my staff report. Unless you have questions?
Is there any questions of Cinda?
No.
I have none.
No.
I don't have any right now. All right, at this time, we would hear a presentation from the applicant. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Terry Martin, 239 Ashton Lane in McCall. I'd like to share a little exhibit. These are photos of my daughter's wedding just 2 weeks ago at the farm to kind of show you what it's conditioned like now and how well this would work. Is it all right to pass these out?
How many do you have?
Good enough for everybody, just some photos.
Well, I'd like to show them for exhibits.
Oh, I've got plenty.
Huh?
Plenty. Here's 6. Look at that.
And I'll start flipping through these for the people on the YouTube.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
These, I'm a research historian for the Getty Research Institute in Los Angeles. I'm accustomed to restoring and doing things. So I've really enjoyed the last few years restoring this vintage property, which was, the house was established somewhere, we think around 1917 by the Kumpala family. We actually found in the loft a journal written by Matlena Kumpala, who was a teenage girl, and she kept a journal and she was talking about the boys in the area, and it was a very sweet thing. It took some serious analyzing because her script was very fanciful and it was written in Finnish. So Bill Leaf was kind enough to help me with some of the translations. We only translate a little bit of it, but so the restoring of this property has been a passion of mine, and part of continuing to restore the property is to try and put together more of the land around the property. It was originally 77 acres, it's been cut up. I have 10 and a half. It's been on the market for quite some time in different pieces. Mr. Grunsky is a neighbor. He's the one that's closest, right? Direct access from the barn. We all have a mind to restore that piece of property to keep it green. One conspicuously missing response is from Lenny Nelson, who is the only other one that owns anything in that subdivision. He owns Lot 7, and he bought a right of refusal on Lot 8 in order to keep it green. We are all of the same mind. I do understand people are opposed to a type of an event venue there because it would destroy. I would be the same way. I am fully, totally respectful that people want their peace and quiet. They want everything to be clear and safe. They don't want loud parties every weekend. I am fully respectful of that. Everybody has a right to be heard on this. Saying that, I would be the same way if I didn't know who I'm a control freak Virgo who is a perfectionist and wants nothing but the best for my neighbors. I was particularly impressed with Amy Pemberton's letter. It struck such a good balance and a compromise that I've actually conformed a lot of thinking. It actually made it feel better to me personally because I do love my farm. I love being there. I'm willing to sacrifice for a short time in order to be able to put together that farm and bring more of those lots together. I've been negotiating with Sal Gallucci. He's a busy guy. He's saying, we'll get on it. He's got to rewrite CCNRs anyway. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I am fully understanding that I cannot move forward even with the CUP until I get his approval to do so. There's nobody out there. It's just me right now. One of the things that I think seemed to be a focus for everybody was the idea that this would be a CUP in perpetuity. Amy's suggestion that we review it after a couple of years, I like pretty much everything she came up with. You can see in my exhibit that I've written a proposed introductory letter to anybody who would be willing, who would be interested in doing a wedding, having an event. At Matt Lena's, who is the name of the young girl whose journal we found in the wall. That's why we named it Matt Lena's. There are hundreds of weddings in this area every year. I only need 12. I can afford to be particular about who gets married there. I would actually interview them along with Shannon Berry, who is McCall Weddings, who would be the only exclusive partner on that to manage that. So we're all in sync all the time about what's okay and what's not okay. Everybody can have my cell phone number. Not only may they call me, I insist they call me if there's anything that's upsetting. I've almost nearly conformed completely, with one exception to Amy Pemberton's letter, is that after 2 years, brides don't book weddings until a year to 2 years out. So it would be a while to be able to perform on this at all. With the exception that right now there are brides crying all over the place because all of their events have just been canceled because they can only have 30 people at Tamarack or whatever. There's no outdoor space for them to be socially distanced. If we could rescue some of that, that would be nice to do, but it would take a year or two to actually build up a business of any kind to be able to demonstrate my veracity and my fervency in keeping this beautiful and calm. I love my own property. And it would be a short time just so I can pick up some of those other lots and restore a lot of that farm, particularly Lot 5 right behind my barn, because it has been batted around recently from the words of Sal Gallucci and my farmer partner, Gordon Cruikshank, that he is intending to build some small spec homes out there. He would have to build them right on that cul-de-sac Ashton Ridge Place. I don't know. That's sort of speculation, talking with someone that had gone out there, a builder, to give some information on that. Sal's willing to work. He's got to change CCNRs. If it will help sell those lots, if Bob and Lenny pick up the other two, we can sort of work toward keeping that green out there. So that's my pitch. I would like to just go over some of the requirements of, or conditions of approval to explain where I have moved on this. We talked about that. Change of scope of land. There's nothing that's going to be built or changed there. Only continue to restore. I've landscaped. I've made the barn, brought it up so that it is beautiful and solid. The house has been fully restored. I don't particularly want to rent my house out to anybody other than to allow brides to get ready there on that wedding day specifically. That's something that's important to them, and the photos would be beautiful for them. So it's a wonderful place for that kind of an event. Probably weddings only. I'm not sure where it came from, all the additional events, but really just weddings there, other than farm to market friends who want to possibly do that for gathering the canned goods and the food bank because it's sheltered and they could do that sometimes during the winter. But little things like that, I don't know if I need extra permission. That's not running a business. But so other than that, that would be the only uses would be wedding. Compliance would be compliant. I understand that. I still have to follow the CCNRs, and we're working at amending those, which he's amended several times. It's just a matter of him getting to it. They need to amend them anyway, according to him and to his real estate representative. So that would be the time at which they would, make an amendment for me to do these for a short time, reviewed after 2 years. Lighting comply with the Valley County ordinance. It's kind of a funny story. I've been out there 4.5 years. I didn't even know that barn light worked. It was when I had the electricians out there just making things safe and making sure everything was worked that they accidentally turned it on. So that night I have my kids upstairs going, turn that light off. So I'm out in the dark trying to figure out how to turn switches off. We couldn't figure out how to turn it off. The next day, the contractors came back. We figured out it had been wired directly to its own breaker. So somehow it had been turned on and I didn't know how to turn it off. So we figured that out. That won't be on at all. I mean, nobody would even know how to turn that one on. So permit for a sign, I would have to restore the post and lintel at the end of the driveway and would comply with that. The turnaround is easy there. I have a big turnaround right between the barn and the outbuilding. There's also access off of Ashton Ridge Court on the road right up behind the barn. You could do the full loop if necessary. Overflow parking, there won't be parking on site. If you see in my attachment, you'll see that it will be shuttle only. That's something that McCall Weddings does. They'll take care of that. She does it for her own preventing liability. So those will be shuttled in with the exception of people who need special assistance who will be allowed to drive right up to the barn door. We had some of that happening at my daughter's wedding where we had to bring people right up to the door. And that's fine because that would be well mitigated, the traffic. There could be no parking in the septic drain field. That's on a pretty steep slope on the west side of the property. All food would be catered in. It's required that they work with either McCall Weddings, Delish Catering, which is also Shannonberry, or the rental venue, so that there's a director at all times. 99% of the time, Shannonberry, who's been McCall Weddings for many years. She's very professional and really knows her stuff. So she knows how to prevent problems and how to keep it clean and orderly. She's very, very good. And so any food items or anything would be taken out the same night. There would be nothing left there. Pack it in and pack it out. That's how it goes. They drive it back out with them when they leave. Porta potties, obviously, based on the number of guests, which we've also limited. No, I have taken the no fireworks, campfires, and bonfires to another level. I don't even allow open flames. I love my barn. There's no smoking in it. That's all the rules presented in the welcome letter that, if they're interested, that I have proposed in this exhibit. No open flames of any kind. We have plenty of wonderful candles that are battery operated, and we actually have many of those and provide that. So there's plenty of lighting in the barn. There's 3 vintage chandeliers in there. You don't need a lot of things burning on tables. So no, absolutely no camping, no ATVs, loudspeakers and PA systems. When we had my daughter's wedding, we had an amplifier in the barn. I don't think anybody knew there was a wedding going on. Frankly, nobody said a word. We were there and really enjoyed it. As you can see, we kept people apart while we were in the barn. We actually did the ceremony in the barn and then moved everybody outside for cocktails and appetizers, and then back inside for the dinner. Then we had a little microburst, so we closed the door and danced inside. There's plenty of space, and it was a wonderful, wonderful event. And we'd like to be able to sort of stick with that kind of a profile for events. And again, there are so many weddings up here. I only need 12. There are hundreds of weddings up here. I just need a few, and that will allow me, on a smaller scale, since we've cut down from 24 to 12, it would slow down my process for buying land to kind of put that farm back together, but it's still doable. At a minimum, I'll be able to mitigate the density of what would be built out there. So there you go. Either myself or Shannon Berry would be there every time through the entire event. There would never be anybody there left alone. And 2 events per month. On my welcome letter, you can see that I have complied almost completely with Amy Pemberton's suggestions. I thought she was brilliant in assessing that. So I'm happy to comply under all of those terms, with the exception of maybe 3 years to reassess, because it's just the first year and a half, it's going to be not much going on. It takes a while to, build up the business. Basically, good old-fashioned barn dances, and there's plenty of room to spread out outdoors. Tents always come down. And if there seemed to be any reason that I would not be able to make every neighbor happy, then I would just stop of my own volition, because that's more important to me. I can't wait for Amy Pemberton to bring some of her homemade wine across the driveway, so across the street. So that's very important to me. I know there was one individual that was particularly upset that kind of lobbied others, and I've tried to reach out to her and couldn't quite make contact with her. But the others I have spoken to, many of the others. But that's all I have to say. If, we'd like to restore the old farm and keep it all happy and a beautiful thing, and not something that's going to be a pain for everybody.
Okay. Are there any questions of the applicant?
I don't.
Well, originally I did have some questions for the applicant, but she has cleared those up in my mind. Dropping it from 24 events down to 12 seems a little more reasonable. Maximum number of guests, 120. The other concern I had was people getting in and out. And you indicated
Shuttles.
they'll all be shuttled in.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be no overnight camping.
Absolutely none.
And
I've
there will
got
be
my
an
own thing about
on-site
that.
Representative, yourself. or somebody else
Absolutely.
there.
Probably both.
I have no other questions.
Shutting it down at 10 o'clock. During most of the season, it's not even dark at 10 o'clock. Shuttling people out will mitigate the traffic. Also, the intention wasn't to come up and down the driveway, but to go down Ashton Ridge Court. because there's access to the back, straight to the barn from there. If we're shuttling, however, we could bring guests in up the driveway because it's far fewer cars. I value my nice driveway and don't want to mess that up. I'm an extremely aesthetic person. This is going to have to look nice or I'm not even going to like it. So we're going to do our best to mitigate for any kind of messiness about it. And again, I think the critical thing is that we don't need every wedding. I don't have to take the 150 person wedding. It's my understanding the average wedding is 75. So we'll stick with those just to, make it easier. 120, that would be a maximum. But we can fit 75 in the barn.
And just kind of a follow-up question, I guess, and this would be the only use for that. It wouldn't be like business retreats or anything like that. It'd just be for weddings.
Just weddings. I think originally we had talked about doing, and I can't remember what came up, but something had come up. So we sort of broadened that and didn't pigeonhole it to weddings. But as I'm becoming more involved in how all of this works, I think we should specialize in that 75 guest to 100 guest wedding, be able to do the barn dance, and they'll either gravitate to us for what we have to offer or they won't. And like I said, hundreds of weddings up here. We only need a dozen. And that will allow me to start purchasing, but that'll change the nature of how I go about that. But it's certainly doable.
I have no further questions for the applicant.
I have just a few questions. I see, so you said there'd be no on-site parking from guests, but I'm assuming that there'll be parking from like the catering company.
Correct.
So how many parking spaces are you proposing?
Behind the barn, there can be up to 30. I mean, there's plenty of road there.
Okay.
And they won't see it. Again, it's all about photos these days for these brides. It's all about Instagram. It's about the beautiful pictures they can take. So we would tuck all of that stuff behind the barn so it wouldn't be seen.
Okay. So 30 spaces is up.
I think that's what we put in there was 30 spaces.
Okay. And then for your outdoor events, so say you have a wedding outside, will you have amplified speakers or sound systems for those events as well? Or will the only amplification be inside of the barn?
Currently, and what we've experimented with was inside the barn, and it wasn't heard at all by the Grunskys. And we experimented with it. Nobody complained about that. And it was just sort of without trying to, hold it down, just what would it be? Just a natural thing. But I'm more than willing to use the decibel meter idea that Amy came up with if necessary. I don't want to make anybody unhappy. I really like my neighbors. I don't want to make anybody unhappy, and I think we all would like to see that whole parcel is not dense with spec homes.
I do have one question. I'm sorry.
Okay. My last question is first for you and then for you. Would it be prudent of us to make a condition of approval that this application would not be approved unless the CC&Rs are amended to accept this type of operation? Because I don't want to set a precedent that we rely on CC&Rs or we enforce or we have any connection with that, because that would be a slippery slope. But maybe that isn't attaching ourselves to them too closely. What's your recommendation on that?
I read a condition of approval shall not operate until approved use in CC&Rs.
Okay. So is that something that you would be willing to agree to as the applicant?
Well, yes, because I wouldn't want to get into a fight. We are negotiating it. He's just busy. And he's just up in the air. He's San Diego. This is a very small thing to him. I mean, This is not a big deal to him. It is to me, but to him, it's not. So I'm patient. We're diligently working at it. The real estate agent has been working with him as well. So we're trying, he's a good guy. He's just a real busy guy. So we're trying to negotiate something like that. And I would not want to move forward without that approval. It's just breaking the rule. I was raised by military people. I follow rules because my mother would have. She was a sergeant in the Air Force. So
So just another point of clarification. It looks like there's 9 total lots in the Ashton Ridge Ranch subdivision. Is that correct? And so those CCNRs are only shared by those 9 lots.
Correct. And there's nothing active yet until 6 lots are sold.
Okay.
We don't have meetings. We don't have anything. I mean, it's just me out there right now.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yes.
So you say you're going to have 12 weddings per year? Are those spread throughout the year or all those in the summer?
Well, actually, Shannon was very fond of the idea of trying to spread it out and do fall weddings, October, November weddings. So, yeah, we'd stretch that out. I'm here a good 7-8 months out of the year. So, you know, I like being here.
I can't remember if it was a condition of approval or somewhere else stated, but it was limited to 2 events per month. Was that a condition of approval?
Oh, I
Where
see
did
what
I
you're
see
saying,
that?
the density. No,
Oh,
and
yeah.
actually, that was something Shannon very recommended to never do more than every other week. That's just too much.
That was a condition.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's, yeah, or less. We're stretching it out over another month.
Perfect. All right. I don't have any other questions at this time. Anybody else?
I have none.
I have none.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
At this time, we would hear testimony. I'll first ask, are there any proponents who have signed up to speak?
I think they're just gonna filter in.
Just filter in? Okay. So whoever is first in line, go ahead and step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, please. And we are going to limit testimony to 3 minutes, so if you could keep it short, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Grunsky. I live at 13793 Sweet Iron Court. My husband and I are full-time residents, and if you were to measure directly from the barn that she's speaking of for the wedding venue, I believe we will be the closest home to her location. We're not in that 300-foot radius from the whole property line that crosses over the street, but we are literally the closest homeowners to the venue. And we are here in full support of her idea. We think that it's a wonderful thing to celebrate love. And like she said, she did have the little small family venue wedding for her daughter, and we were not irritated by the noise or the sound or anything of that sort. I think she's a very integrous woman, so I think any promises and conditions that you set upon her, she will adhere to and follow them. Let's see what else. I love her whole plan of wanting to preserve the land and make it a beautiful site, because literally the view from my house and my big kitchen window that looks out looks directly at the barn. And I know the secondary option to that is to be looking at like a 1,800 square foot or smaller spec home. And at which case I mostly will be looking at someone's backyard, not even their front yard. So selfishly, I like the idea of the land being preserved for that. Let's see. Thought I had a lot to say, but pretty much we're here to support her. We think she's awesome. We think her whole plan is great. We love love. We love commitment. We love weddings. I don't think the noise is going to be a factor. And we're just here to say that we think it'd be a great idea. And we hope you approve it. And we hope you just say, go for it and don't have a bunch of contingencies. But she has already expressed that she will apply, adhere to whatever you set forth.
All right.
Pretty much easy. Anything else you paid me to say? No, just kidding. But no, I think it stands strong, quite frankly, that I am the only full-time homeowner there. And so I hope you hear my voice that I am in support of it, because some other people that live in our neighborhood, maybe they're like, oh, we don't want that. But you're here like 2 weeks out of the whole year. And really, what does that count for? Just saying. So anyway, that's my position. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
We'll filter, we've got like an order, so you go out the back. Perfect. Thank you. All right, yep. You could state your name and address for the record, please. And testimony is limited to 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to be succinct. My name is Julie Nichols. My address is 16432 North Midland Boulevard, Nampa, Idaho. I'm here because I'm super excited about this venue. Actually, we're wedding photographers, and we have photographed in a lot of venues all over the world and a lot of stuff in Idaho too. And when this venue or this property and Terry, we had the opportunity to meet with her and actually kind of scout the location for photos, which we're super excited about. I was super impressed with the attention to detail that I saw in Terry. I mean, with her background in art history, it just seemed like a perfect marriage of restoration and something that could be super awesome for the community, offering something that isn't seen elsewhere with this historic barn. So I'm impressed with what she's done. I'm impressed with the venue. I'm impressed with her attention to detail and her careful preservation of the history that's here and wanting to really be an asset to the community. So that's my take on this as a wedding photographer and a vendor that's been to many, many venues and has seen many, many weddings and work with many venue owners. I'm super impressed with Terry. I think this is something that's going to be really good for this community. And I think she's going to be a huge asset. So that's my thought on this. Do you guys have any questions for me? Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you
You
so
want me to
much.
filter out this way?
Yep, out the back,
Okay.
please. Thank you. All right, who's next? I can't see around the doorway there.
Is there anybody else?
Yes. I think maybe they brought in the proponents first.
Always empty.
Okay, I guess.
So let's go to the phone. Is there, I know there's more people outside. I think that they brought in the proponents first.
Where's the list?
Um,
We can intermix the testimony.
So let's go ahead. We'll take one person from the phone to start, and we'll see how long it takes to get people in from outside. Is there any proponents on the phone who would like to speak?
Yeah, this is Lenny Nelson. Can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. My name is Lenny Nelson. My address is 232 Elkhorn Ranch Road. And I'm the one that they refer to. I own lot 7, which is directly west of the property and actually shares the boundary, and will be the closest house to this property. Our kids go to Darnley. We're full-time residents up here and planning on building in that home. We have a house plan complete on it. And, we initially purchased this parcel, due to the rural nature, large surrounding lots and open space, provide my family with a quiet, Valley County experience. And I don't need to reiterate, I guess, how many people this will affect based on the amount of opposition. Obviously, I know the purpose of this special use hearing is to evaluate the compatibility of a non-permitted use on the neighboring properties. And I feel it's abundantly clear that the commercial event center is not compatible. And I just kind of list out a couple of reasons. Obviously, the noise. I guess they had one event there. I've been gone for 2 weeks, but inside, outside, everybody knows that, especially here in Valley County. The sound travels very far. This is a single-family subdivision with lots all the way around it, and there's no doubt we're going to hear the noise. It's just impossible not to. And we'll have to listen to every single one since we are full-time residents. Traffic. Weddings are definitely more than a single-day event. Between tours by potential couples, delivery setups, days before the event, cleanup, takedown days after. We have children that are 7 and 9, and I'm definitely concerned about walking on the road or riding back bikes on with the additional traffic. Another big concern is safety. I don't know if you guys noticed, Ashton Ridge is definitely, no shoulder, 2-lane road. If that road ever becomes blocked, fire and medical cannot access that venue with 100 guests there. There's one road block, no secondary access. Then, obviously, I know you guys do not enforce the CCNRs, but as you've read, it is against the original CCNRs, and it kind of shows a clear lack of plan compatibility, in my opinion, and within a residential subdivision. And I see that staff has recommended this with some conditions, and honestly, in my opinion, that's kind of like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole here, trying to make everybody happy, and it's not. I don't believe that's appropriate due to the reasons I said, and the fact that neighbors will be required to police the events and create neighborhood disputes, which I'm not in favor of. And also, there's a dispute of the TCNR, is she going to do it, is she not? So will she abide by the conditions of approval? I don't know. Lastly, I just can't think of a more intrusive commercial use in a single family residential area, rural, than an event center. And also, if you do the math, 12 events is every weekend in June, July, and August, which is, the wedding season, which that's a huge concern. In my opinion, there's a lot better locations in Valley County that's going to address the neighbors' quality of life and safety. For example, my wife and I, we got married up in Grundy, and that's much better than this. So, and then, like I said, I realize it's a resort community, will generate income, but as a full-time resident, we chose to live in this area and enjoy the quiet, and there's definitely not fit in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, we're going to pause the rest of the testimony on the phone for a minute because we have more people here to testify. If you could mute your phone, Mr. Nelson. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Ms. Berry. If you could state your name and address for the record, please, and testimony will be limited to 3 minutes.
Okay. My name's Shannon Berry. My address is 3761 Columbine Drive, New Meadows, Idaho. I'm the owner of Village Catering and McCall Weddings. And, we have been working with Terry on the design and hopefulness of having it be a venue. It's a very desirable ambiance that I think really fits well with our area. I think the economic impact for the community is a very positive one. As you know, the state that the world is in right now, we're going to try to fit 2 years of weddings into next year. And I think that having an additional venue is definitely going to help our industry for the area. I've had a lot of experience with managing venues just as a wedding coordinator and as a caterer, and worked for several years out at Tamarack as the exclusive caterer and coordinator out there, as well as we help manage Black Hawk on the River, and I'm familiar with different CUPs for some of these different venues. And I just think the whole thing is a great positive, impact. She's done such a beautiful job. She's very organized. We have laid out some very specific rules, and we take our jobs very seriously. We want to not only keep our guests safe and our clients safe, but also the community and the area as a whole. So, we've kind of seen it all, and we do not have any, we don't have any trouble with making sure that people follow, the rules, and that we are there to make sure that, event goes off not only well and beautifully, but that people are kept safe. And so, some of the opposition, I think some of this stuff is, I think unrealistic. I don't think it's that obtrusive. I don't think that the weddings would consume June, July, and August. Our season typically is mid-May through mid-October, but we're really hoping to see some more fall weddings. As any venue in the area, we cater and coordinate about 30 different venues in the area, from council up to here and everywhere in between. And I think personally, my staff and I would see to it of managing that calendar to where we spread that out a little bit. Any venue in the area is going to tell you that they would like to see more winter weddings. Nobody is hurting for business in the summer. So, our hope is to spread that out a little bit. So I don't foresee it being every weekend. I don't think that's what the applicant desires. I don't think as a person that's going to help manage that for her would desire that either. Black Hawk in their CUP, they have a minimum of 2 events a month, and we're thinking 2 to 3. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Yep, if you could go out the back door. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not you.
Oh, I go-
You can come in the front door.
Oh, me?
Mrs. Berry, yep, out the back door.
That way? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yep, if you could say your name and address for the record, please. And then there is a 3-minute time limit on testimony.
Mine is going to be short today. My name is Tanya Noitzi, and my address is 660 Stockton Drive in McCall. I also work for Shannon through McCall Weddings and Village Catering, so I've been working alongside her with Terry through this whole process. And over the last year, just getting to know how she does things. The input that I would like to provide is the fact that she is respectful in every aspect of her life that I've seen so far. Personal relationships, the way she treats her property, her ground, and the fact that she's done so much research on the history of the building and wants to keep that intact. I've just found very commendable on her part. So anyway, that's really all I had to add. So I think everything else has kind of probably already been said. So,
all right. Thank you so much. All right, do we have another person out in the hallway?
I have 2 more, but they're against.
Okay, yep, that's fine. You can send them in.
Bring them in.
We're just down the hall.
Keeping them 6 feet apart gets them way down the hallway there.
Not always 200 feet long at least. Yeah.
okay, done.
You can hear you.
Someone on the phone does not have their phone muted. If you could keep it muted, we would appreciate it. All right, Mr. Borg, if you could step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. And your testimony will be limited to 3 minutes.
I'll be short, thank you. Hi, Bill Borg, not 45 Knob Hill Drive in Lake Fork. I'm a few miles from the site of the proposed wedding venue. I'm about probably 3.5, 4 miles. But I know the area, and I drove through it again over the last few days just to form an opinion as I saw this posted. And integrity of neighborhoods is just something that's very near and dear to my heart. And I was here last fall at a meeting, and so as I go through there and think about it, this is a neighborhood, and it's not just the subdivision. And I understand there are issues with the 6 or 7 lots that are 8 or whatever it is that are part of the actual subdivision adjacent to it. But it's a lot bigger neighborhood than that. It's a beautiful neighborhood. And I just can't help but believe that with this kind of a commercial venue in the area, that people would not have purchased differently or thought about that, or it's the type of thing, to me, again, it's not what the neighboring folks bought into. And hearing from all of them obviously means a lot because they're the ones that are there living it. We've all been to weddings. They're fun. They're loud. People get out of hand. And some of the things, credit to Ms. Martin, talking, some of the things to mitigate perhaps is, can be to everybody's satisfaction. But they get loud and they get out of hand, and maybe I just need a higher quality set of friends and relatives and stuff like that. But I think we've all been there. When the neighbor kid gets married, that's awesome. That's a cause for celebration, and that's a big event in the neighborhood, and people are invited. But he would get real old every weekend, and whether it's 12 or 24 or whatever it is. Again, on behalf of those neighbors, so that they are going to have to, even with people on site, they're going to have to police some of whatever restrictions you come up with. They're going to be burdens on neighbors. So I just wanted to add my opinion because to me it's a neighborhood, and a commercial venture of this type is not appropriate there, as beautiful as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Out the back.
I have to leave.
Yep. Thank you, sir. All right. If you could come in and state your name and address for the record, please.
Casual dress, burned my feet
Oh, no, that's all
at
right.
the lake.
Sunburned or
Oh,
burned?
big time.
Oh, okay. Testimony will be limited to 3 minutes.
Okay, Lloyd Manning, 427 Wilhelm Creek Court. And I know you received a lot of letters from that neighborhood, and I won't belabor all of those points, which I agree with. I did buy in my subdivision for its quietness, for its safety, for its solitude. I spent over 7 figures, and now there's a proposed commercial use less than 1,000 feet from my home. I was a developer for about 30 years, and I can unequivocally say that I never put anything on a piece of property that didn't belong. I think one of you mentioned something about a slippery slope when it comes to zoning. Once you break zoning in an area, you've opened the door wide open. The next person that comes in will be all over that, and then you've got a real boondoggle on your hands. So I really, really recommend that you don't break the CC&Rs and the zoning that were put in place to protect the neighborhood. I also just, we had 11 grandkids at our house recently. They're running up and down the street. They're crossing Ashton, and safety is a major concern. There was some, I think the applicant mentioned that most of the people are there a couple weeks a year. That's not true. Many of us are full-time residents there, and our families and our grandkids come and go. So there's no time limit on that. Just the fact that they're going to shuttle or just limit it to weddings. I understand that her wedding was probably, you know, well organized, but it was their guest list. Now you invite other weddings in, you don't have that much control over who's invited and who's not. And weddings can get pretty raucous, especially if alcohol is being served. So for all those reasons and all the reasons that have been presented by my fellow homeowners, we would request denial. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, do we have anyone else here? No, that's it? Okay, so I have a list of people who are supposed to be on the phone, so I'll just call you out by name, and if you're there, please unmute yourself and give us your testimony. The first person I have is...
Can anybody hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, this is Sal Galucci, JJS Southwest LLC. I'm the developer, one of the members that developed Ashton Ridge Ranch. And we developed it and provided CC&Rs that would limit certain, events that would happen, or, we limited to residential use, not allowing commercial. So it's prohibited by the CC&Rs for commercial use. I'm not in favor of it. I'm opposing it. We want to have tranquility. I believe in weddings. I believe in love. But all I'm hearing here tonight is all about the commercial vineyard, the commercial businesses, wedding planners, caterers, photographers, and it's income generating. This wasn't developed for an income generating. It was solely made for residential, and we instilled and provided CC&Rs to, either you like this subdivision or you don't with the CC&Rs. And the CC&Rs were approved by the 2 buyers that bought the lots there. And they approved them. And it takes, according to our CC&Rs, it takes a majority to change the CC&Rs, to amend them. And JJS Southwest, which I represent, I'm the manager and member, one of the owners, we own 7 of the 9 lots, and we're not in favor of this. We got to leave it like it is. And no, I don't have anything worked out with Cherry Martin. I'm against it. I may want to build my own home there, and I've got a couple lots that I'm looking at. But, I've got a lot of investment in there, and I don't want to have it to be challenged with a CUP and deter some of the buyers that may want to have the solitude, the tranquility, the peace, and quiet enjoyment called Paramount Title. We don't need to have a commercial venue next to any of these lots or within this subdivision. And I know the Willows has similar CCNRs. We worked together on it years ago, and they're very similar as far as not allowing commercial use. And this is definitely a commercial use. It's a income generator. There's other areas in the valley that maybe a bigger, that's more in more sprawling, more acreage. That would be probably more adequate or more appropriate for a wedding. But I've been hearing, like I said, I was hearing, this, tonight, and I just want to, it's just not allowed. And, I got a lot of money in this too, like I'm a developer, okay, yeah. But we got a lot of time and energy in this, developing this for a purpose of residential use, not for commercial. If I was going to go into commercial, I would have bought a commercial property and built a commercial venue and have weddings there. This is not that, wasn't made for that. So, but anyway, if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer. Excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Galucci. All right. I have a list of people who are still on the phone who would like to testify. The next person I have is Heidi Schneider. Are you on the phone? If you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Heidi is no longer on there.
Oh, okay.
She said, I think Sal's response covers it. I don't need to speak.
Okay, perfect. How about Amy Pemberton? Is Amy on the phone?
This is Amy Pemberton.
Hi, Amy. We can hear you.
I'm at 254 Cold Creek Court. And I do appreciate Sherry's consideration of my proposed conditions of approval, but I am entirely opposed to this project. I also appreciate her efforts at trying to make this project something that would not be an imposition to the neighbors, but I just don't see how that can happen. Another problem with CUPs is that they run with the land. So if she were to ever sell it or something to happen to her and somebody else got the project, a new person would own this property and they may not be as careful as she is. And same with her wedding planner. And and I think Mr. Galucci is probably the linchpin. But if you do decide to approve this conditional use permit, I would request that you incorporate all of the conditions that I put in my letter, as well as the ones that Cinda had, and with requirement that the CCNRs be complied with. And I think 3 years review of the CUP instead of 2 would be fine. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Pemberton.
Thank you very much. Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out is we are full-time homeowners.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I also have a Paul Pemberton signed up to speak.
Hello, this is Paul Pemberton, 254 Cold Creek Court in McCall. Yeah, I am opposed to this project also. My concerns have been addressed, I think, with everybody's comments on it also. But I do agree with Amy's comment that the CUP is with the land and not the owner, and that can cause problems down the road. I think if that is opened up, I just think that somebody can take advantage of that later down the road. But I appreciate Mr. Galucci's comments, and I'm with him 100%. I think this was developed as a residential venture for him and his partners, and not a commercial one. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, the next person I have is Kim Crane. Kim, are you on the phone?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay, great. Kim Crane, 13759 Grouse Knoll in the Willows. And we are the first home to the south of the proposed wedding venue. And as a community of neighbors surrounding the barn where the proposed wedding venue is, we are surprised and upset that someone would want to come in and upset our peace and serenity that exists here. The map included in the application does not show any of the surrounding areas of homes. I don't know if this was done purposely, but it is unfair. There are many, many homes surrounding the barn and sold lots that residents are hoping one day to build on with their savings. These are our dream homes where we live and play, and with the proposed venue, each and every one of us here will be highly impacted. If you add up the days on the calendar and the months of the years, it's nearly 2/3 of the year, and of course in the prime time of the year with the best seasons. So the very time that we would all like to get outside and enjoy our properties will now be impacted by loud noise and heavy traffic. Our own county P&Z committee approved the surrounding subdivisions many, many years ago. So at that point, the barn was brought into a subdivision. This is a quiet area and people respect that. The wetlands that flow through the property here, passing by the barn, are also quiet areas harboring many animals and wildlife, who I might add will also be affected by the noise and more than likely be driven away. Is this how we steward the land? Also, having lived in another area behind a VRBO, I know how quickly things can change. An owner may start out with high intentions, but as soon as everything slows or other projects take them away, this is given into the hands of people who may not care as much for the neighbor's peace and quiet. Yes, I've seen it happen. People who pay large amounts of money for a venue feel that the place is theirs and they can do with it what they'd like to do with it. They don't care for the neighbors like other neighbors would care for each other. So the levels of noise increase, the density of traffic changes, and the neighbors are made to suffer for it. We then have to become the policing agent. We didn't sign up for that. The potential revenue stream loss from foregone building on these adjacent lots is also something to consider for the county. Or who would want to build on their precious lot next to a wedding venue? The wedding music venue may bring in some additional monies, but the trade-off for all of us here is, again, not fair and not right. The residential subdivisions here are not allowed to have metal roofs, and this is for the protection of our neighbors. And the glare from those roofs from the neighbors above us in the hills would be awful. Now imagine 1 to 3 white glaring tents for 1 to 3 days, and glaring chrome on 65 to 75 vehicles for a day, or even the 30 that are proposed behind the barn. Trying to muffle an amplified music band in an over 100-year-old barn is really not attainable. Recall that you and I live in would not be the same. There are more appropriate places not surrounded by residents and residential areas and quiet animal habitats that should be considered for this type of event. And I hope you all see the reasonableness in this. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Crane. All right, is there someone on the line named Kristen or Kirsten?
There's Christy Peterson.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I submitted a letter late, but I think what broke my heart was hearing the first man speak who I think you thought he was a proponent, but he was an opponent. And he's the one I was very concerned that they weren't advised about this because, well, first of all, my husband and our family, we've lived up on Jug Handle Estate, overlooking that area on the hill for about 20 years. And we loved, you know, the beauty of what Terry was doing and how she restored the barn and the house. We loved that. But it's not a good idea. The family that bought a lot very close to them. We've seen them. They bring their children. They have picnics. This is their dream place. They are going to build a little house. And this is now what they have to deal with. I mean, this just breaks my heart. It's irresponsible. It's cruel is what it is. I mean, we deal with the noise up the hill is what we deal with. But we hear the Roseberry Music Festival when it's going on, the concerts down there. We hear Jug Mountain Ranch weddings or whatever. And it's, okay, we go in the house, not a big deal. It's not that often fine. But the people that are right around that, this is just cruel if you approve this. You know, there's hundreds of people that live in Jug Handle Estates, and we're here full time, by the way. And sometimes there's service vehicles that will park right near the end of that driveway. And they just park there thinking that they're in the wilderness and nobody lives on the hill. And that is a blind hill, you can't see. And there's been so many times where I've had to stop and ask somebody, excuse me, are you aware, you know, that we can't see around you? And so there's all kinds of issues involved in this. And it's just, you know, it breaks my heart. It's a wonderful thing. I'm into historic preservation. I love the history, the Finnish history and all that. But it's not the place to do it. It's okay to have your own family wedding, but not to make money off of it and then impose it on everybody else who bought in the residential area. And the other thing is, I'm sorry, you know, what's wrong with going to the Justice of the Peace or the like we did? You know? I'm sorry. I don't have, you know, or the church or the barn down at Roseberry. It's just, it's not fair to the families right around. It's just terrible. I mean, it makes me angry. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. All right, so I still am looking for someone named Kirsten or Kristen on the phone.
Just go on and just.
Okay, if you're there, please unmute yourself at some point and let us know. The next person on the list I have is Carrie Rain. Are you there? Okay, the next person I have is Dana Heldeman.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead.
My name is Dana Haldeman. I'm speaking as the agent for my mother, who is at 253 Cold Creek Court, which is right across from the property. And I want to speak against the proposal. I appreciate the comments that have been made by those who also are against approval of wedding venue. And I just want to lend my support to their comments on behalf of my mother, Sharon DeGarmore, who is the owner of the property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, did either of the other two names that I called
I
out?
have their phone numbers if you'd like me to call them.
Yes, let's go ahead and give them a call. And then we'll see if there's anyone else on the phone who did not sign up. But hold off once.
I feel like I'm playing that game, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Can I call a lifeline? Is that what it was? Lifeline?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. Use a lifeline, call a friend. That's what it was.
Okay, that was Carrie Rain I tried to call. Okay. And I only have one other one. Kirsten. Kirsten, this is Cindy at Valley County Planning and Zoning. Did you want to testify?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my husband's really sick, so that takes precedence. I'd really like to, but he's having trouble.
Okay, thank you. I hope he gets better.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Okay. Do we have anyone else on the phone who would like to testify? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, hearing no one else on the phone, and we've confirmed that there's nobody else physically here to testify, we would now hear a rebuttal from the applicant.
I'm sitting here, sorry. It took a while. All those arrows really hurt. But my whole goal with this was temporary. Special consideration to Mr. Nelson. It's going to be a couple of years before they can build. I mean, it's just the process out here. It takes time. So it didn't feel like it would be that big a deal. Sal has equivocated sometimes, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's unfair. Maybe I'm wanting to hear what I want to hear. But I was led to believe there was a possibility that we could do this. So I'm sorry for taking too much time on that. It didn't seem like it was that far a stretch, but apparently it is. To me, these weddings are small. They're nice little events. And for a short period of time, I don't want to do this forever either. And that's why I thought Amy's suggestion to review it was a good one. But apparently there's a lot of neighbors to whom I have no ill regard for expressing their opinions, by the way. So just, that's all I have to say. I don't want to upset everybody. Thank you.
Are there any other questions of the applicant?
No, this time I don't, no.
I have none.
Nope.
Okay. Well, then we will close the public hearing and bring it to the table for discussion and deliberation. Who would like to go first?
Well, it sounds like she is withdrawing her application.
No, she didn't specifically say that.
Felt that I wasn't heard very well, that this was a temporary idea. And that there was a willingness to review this in a couple of years if it were to be done in a setting, to test it. And then if at any point in time, somebody said this is too much, then we just don't do them anymore.
Okay. Sorry, we can't actually address the applicant anymore because the public hearing is closed.
Sorry.
That's cool though.
Yes.
Because I had the same thought.
Yeah.
She was saying that.
Well, if we were judging this application, or we are judging this application based on its merits, and we need to develop a reasoned decision of whether or not it should pass or not.
Right. Well, if we're going to proceed forward with it, I think that it behooves her to make every effort possible to get a consensus with the HOA. Because I heard that brought up by 3 or 4 different people. And there's that one letter in here that stresses that, plus the developer calling in, talking about that. So my feeling is, without the consensus of the HOA, accepting whatever the guidelines are, whether it's 6 months, 1 year, whatever it is, I feel the HOA at this point needs to really weigh in. So they need to accept whatever the conditions are for that.
So do we put that as a condition of approval, say with approval of the HOA, then the
That is,
CUP is.
That's where I'm a little fuzzy in my thinking on this, because I still go back to the CCNRs that were originally developed for this subdivision. And if I'm under the right understanding, the applicant and the developer are working together, and evidently he's a really busy guy. But then I'm hearing it takes a percentage of the HOA, homeowners association members, to adopt or change a CCNR.
The developer called in.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm coming to.
Yeah.
So, and if the developer is willing to change that to one particular restriction, then it's kind of a moot point, isn't it?
Well, and I think the main sticking point for me on this particular application is that we'd be expressly approving an application that is against the CCNRs, which we as a board cannot enforce CCNRs, but there's a set and updated set of rules. I mean, we saw in our packet, there was 4 revisions to the CCNRs in the subdivision in the past 14 years? When was it incorporated? In 2006? And so it's not like these were CCNRs that were written in the 60s and they haven't been updated since then. They've been revised as recently as last year. So we have an active subdivision with CCNRs that expressly prohibits this type of operation. But then we as a county would come in and say, well, it's okay. I feel like that is a bad situation to put us in as a county.
I agree.
Well, and I agree with you too, because I'm learning as I'm going on CCNRs here.
Right.
We haven't been our subdivision, we have a homeowners association, and we haven't had to amend it because everything's working. And so I wasn't aware that, whether it's the developer and then the homeowners association members had to vote on changing the CCNR. And, I think it's gonna be really hard to get those changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you, Johanna. We know those CCNRs are in place. We shouldn't give approval.
Right. And I think that if the CCNRs were to change in the future down the road,
Then there could be.
that would be a reason for this application to come back before us.
Yes.
But as of right now, they're in place and they expressly prohibit this type of application.
That's my feeling exactly.
Or any type of business in the residential area.
Right. Plus, I think another thing that gives me reason for pause is that when you develop a list of conditions of approval that have 18 on our staff report, we have additional ones that Cinda has written down, and then we have additional ones that we would like to look at if we were to consider this. You're creating a mess that's hard to police and hard to enforce, and it does become the burden of the neighbors to enforce that type of application.
Kind of throws up some red flags
Mm-hmm. Right.
in the process.
Absolutely. Any further thoughts?
I agree with you guys on that, as far as not trampling on the authority of the CCNRs on that. As much as I would like to approve it with conditions,
Right.
but I don't think that that's our place.
I think that, if that one piece were different, it would be something that we could reconsider. If the CCNRs were amended to allow this type of operation and they had specific rules set out, that would be something that would be more, that we'd be willing to consider a little bit more. But since.
And then the homeowners in the association might be a little more comfortable
Mhm.
with accepting something like this in the area.
And the neighbors who are most directly affected would have given their consent essentially. So. Any other thoughts? All right, I would entertain a motion.
I'll entertain a motion that we deny conditional use permit application number 20-11.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second
All in favor?
it. Aye.
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 Application is denied. Motion carries for the denial of the application. There is a 10-day appeal period to the Board of County Commissioners if you're not happy with our decision.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for your time.
Yes.
That is a lot of work to stay this late. I appreciate it.
And thank you for your thoughtful and thorough application.
Very nice application.
It is a very nice application,
It's
and I don't doubt that you are
beautiful
a
barn.
wonderful person.
A beautiful barn.
Yeah, it is a beautiful.
Yeah,
barn.
your property is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If we
And
just
my
had a
door is
different
open.
set
I
of
love
settlers.
showing it off and sharing it with people that don't understand the incredible architecture in those barns. The brilliant, intuitive engineering is pretty amazing. So my door's always open. If you're in the area, just come on in. Say hi.
Thank
And
you
I
so
thank
much.
Again, sometimes you just can't say what you want to say. You don't say anything at all. You can't say something nice. So I'll leave it at that. And again, I thank you so much, and you guys have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for your careful consideration. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
I've lost my agenda.
Well,
okay.
we got two deals there.
All right, so we've moved on to other business. Appeal of administrative decision, new construction on Nemec subdivision.
So I received a building permit for a single-family residence. And you each had this in your packet. It actually shows 2 kitchens, 2 masters, and a shared common area. I hesitated approving this because of the 2 full kitchens. It's not really a duplex. I mean, it's just odd. I didn't know if you wanted to require a conditional use permit for multiple residences with this shared common area, or if you just want to approve it as is with the consideration that they won't be rented out separately.
Well,
The gentleman I've been working with says that his parents will be in one side and his brother and the other will be in the other side with a shared common area. They just didn't want to share kitchens all the time.
I mean, that's understandable.
Yeah. Then I got out the code. I looked at Title IX, Chapter 3(1), and ran down to letter F. And as far as condominiums down, and stuff like that. It didn't really give a good explanation, because this doesn't fit any of them.
I know.
So I was a little bit at a loss on what to say on that, because it really doesn't fit it. And so my questions are, could it eventually be put into a duplex? There's so much shared or common area there that.
Okay, so here's what led me to the conditional use permit, is because in the definition portion of the ordinance, everything is based upon kitchens. A kitchen with a range and full refrigerator establishes the number of residences. So that's what led me to that requirement. And I didn't feel like I should make the call on my own that it should be appealed to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So
Well, Then another question or a thought that just crossed the gray matter here, then he'd have to get a septic approval.
No, this is on sewer.
It's on sewer.
It's on sewer.
So he doesn't have to meet the single family requirements for a single family dwelling.
So my question, this home has not been built yet?
We have issued the building permit
Okay,
because he submitted alternate plans because of my comments turning this one into this a kitchenette. And if you approve his appeal, overturn my decision, then he can put the stove and full fridge and all that stuff back in here.
so here's my question.
If not, he's applying for a conditional use permit.
In the future, say this person builds the house and then their family moves on and they sell it to somebody else and somebody buys it and says, well, shoot, I could turn this into a duplex. Just put a wall right down the center of that common area and divide the garage up so there's two separate entrances. Would they need a building permit? Say the homeowner is doing all that construction themselves and they're putting in all the electrical and the plumbing and whatever. How would we know if this could ever turn into a duplex?
Well, yes, it would require a building permit.
Even if
Would
the-
they get a building permit?
Right,
Likely not.
okay.
But, I mean, we can't hold this gentleman and his family to that.
Hostage to that.
So I did put a condition of approval, I believe, on the building permit. And you could deny mine with a condition that if in the future, regardless of ownership, if this is ever turned into a duplex, they'll require a conditional use permit, or if it's rented out to different parties. My thoughts was they could lock one of these doors, lock this door here, and rent this master suite out with a kitchen. Here's a nice little living area. And this person could enjoy the common area. So it shouldn't be rented to two different parties.
Right.
And we can only do our best if you feel like this is okay. Well, people do stuff all the time.
People do that all the time. So you can rent like the basement of a house as a VRBO or something like
We're
that.
supposed to have a conditional use permit.
So
What about the bigger fancier houses that have two kitchens in it, that have a butler's kitchen and a
They
regular
don't.
kitchen? Mhm.
Unless they get an ADU or a conditional use permit. At the plans I approve. Some people put them in after we leave. But, we can't.
So if we were to not issue a conditional use permit, can we put things in place that would disallow this from being rented to two different parties?
Well, if you overturn my administrative decision that this needs a conditional use permit, you can just request that I put a condition of approval on the appeal that this not be rented to two different parties or turned into a duplex without a conditional use permit. And I would just write that letter and attach it to the building permit.
I like that idea.
I think that would cover the bases,
Yeah.
at least for now.
Well, so it'd be attached to the building permit, but what happens in 10 years when this is owned by somebody else? How are they gonna know that?
We could actually record a document.
Okay, I think that maybe is more important because you'd protect the future owners.
Well, yeah, because they may come in and see that and buy it with the speculation that they could turn it into a duplex.
Yeah.
They certainly can if they come in and get a conditional use permit. Approve it.
That's still
So
possible.
it would be a planning and zoning commission decision similar to something that we record for a conditional use permit that says if this is turned into a duplex or rented to separate parties, they will obtain a conditional use permit and we will record that document.
Yes, that is sufficient in my mind.
I like that idea.
Do we need to vote on that?
Did we make it an action item?
I did not put action item on the agenda, I don't believe.
No.
It was just more of an opinion.
A discussion.
Well, it should have, I'm sorry, it should have had action item.
We can make it an action item.
I'm comfortable doing that. It's supposed to say action item. Yeah, any appeal would be an action item. It's just, it was left off here. Because there has to be an action of an appeal, so.
So I guess I would entertain a motion on Cinda's administrative decision. So the consensus was that we would deny.
No, you're
We would
approving the appeal.
overturn her decision.
You're approving the appeal and overturning my administrative decision.
Oh, got it. Okay, so we're approving. Who got that? Somebody repeat.
I make a motion that we approve the appeal to overturn Cinda's decision on this Wagner cabin parcel with the conditions that we discussed as far as attaching something in the legal record with the property that it cannot be turned into a duplex without a CUP.
Or rented to separate parties.
Or rented to separate parties.
Perfect.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Who
Cinda?
seconded?
Rob did.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is David Wagers. Thank you. Appreciate your.
Oh, I forgot you were the others.
Yeah, I've been hanging on for 2 hours, but all good. And no, and you did a nice job today. I really appreciate you.
At least
giving
you're
it
at
fair.
home and hopefully wearing comfy clothes.
And I totally agree. We don't want to rent it separately. We don't even want to ever rent it. So our goal is not to do that at all. So we're happy with those conditions, fully happy with those conditions. So all good.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Was that him right there?
See you, thank you.
All right, the next
Bye-bye.
item of business is facts and conclusions. Does somebody want to approve or make a motion to approve the facts and conclusions?
Make a motion that we approve and authorize the, I forgot your position,
Chairwoman.
chairwoman, chairlady, to
Chairman.
sign the facts and conclusions, the looks like variance B-1-20 and the CUP 20-09. And did I mention authorize chair lady to sign?
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded.
I vote aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. All right, the only thing we have left to do is adjourn. Meeting adjourned, 9:08.
Oh, go ahead.
Just sec.
Ray seconded.